Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Douglas School Committee meeting on June 3rd at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to read the Douglas Public School mission statement. The Douglas Public Schools offer a diverse learning experience that meet the academic, social, and physical and emotional needs of all of our students. We provide a safe, supportive, and challenging learning environment in which students may achieve academic success and personal growth. Decisions are made in the best interest of our students. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I'd like to call our student representatives up. Maria Deha and Ashton Crowley, please.
Hi, my name is Maria, and I'm here with Ashton. We are 8th grade class officers at the middle school. There are a lot of exciting things happening around the middle school. We want to start by mentioning that we are sad to hear of Mr. Bishop's illness and wish him well. We are happy to have Ms. Sullivan working as our principal to the end of the school year. Middle school sports seasons are quickly coming to an end. The athletes on our team have had many personal successes, and the coach made it a very enjoyable season. The final track meet is on Saturday. We wish all of our athletes competing in states the best of luck. The enrichment program is wrapping up, and many students enjoyed saga, cooking, gym games, and more.
The Student Council continued their community service again this year by raising money for the veterans. In the Blackstone Valley, flags were sold to be displayed on the town common for Memorial Day. After placing the flags, the members walked to the ice cream lady to enjoy an ice cream together. The Student Council is also busy planning the end of the year field day, which will be held on the 16th. The day will consist of a combination of competitive games and enjoyable activities, as well as a free time area, including an inflatable obstacle race and a place to enjoy time with friends.
The band and chorus have been working as hard as ever lately. Last month, they took part in the Great East Music Festival, and both the band and chorus won gold. They traveled to Six Flags and spent the day in the park, celebrating all of their hard work. The band and chorus concert was held last Wednesday with a wonderful turnout of parents, teachers, and friends. The band and chorus students worked hard and put an excellent show. Chorus continues to practice in order to perform at the 8th grade promotion ceremony. This Friday, a luau dance will be held at the high school, sponsored by the band boosters. The 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will have the opportunity to attend and have fun during their Hawaiian-themed night.
This Monday is Step Up Day, where students have the opportunity to meet their teachers for next year. The middle school has a schedule made where 5th grade will come over and move through the 6th grade classes, as the present 6th and 7th grade students will rotate through their next year classes. The 8th graders will walk up to the high school and spend time exploring and learning about the clubs and activities that will be available to them.
All grades are looking forward to the end of the year field trips and activities with their classmates. 8th grade had their field trip to Polo Park today. The grade is looking forward to the staff versus student biggie ball game on June 8th after Step Up Day. Graduation is quickly approaching, and so are many more fun activities for these students. We will be going to West End next week, enjoying a class picnic, and will have a final dance after the promotion ceremony. In science, they're learning about Isaac Newton and his 3 laws. In math, they're working on the line best fits with graph. In honors math, students just finished their unit on polynomials and have started learning about factors and factoring with greatest common factors. In civics class, students just finished the Supreme Court posters and are in full swing working on their final project of the year. the Civics Project in Action. The Civics in Action project, where they are researching the problems that come with students not being able to choose their own enrichments and why this should be changed. In English, they just finished working on the short story Flower for Algernon, and took an open test on this yesterday. Spanish students are working on their Spanish cooking project, where students choose a dish and had to cook it for their families. This week, they are working on a slideshow full of information of their dish.
Seventh graders have been busy learning and exploring new topics across all subjects areas. In science, students are studying magnetism and electricity, learning how to magnetic fields and electrical currents work together in the world around us. In math, blocks 1, 2, and 3 are beginning Unit 8, where students will explore three-dimensional figures and develop their understanding of geometry concepts in Block 7. The students have just wrapped up their final unit in history. Classes are learning about ancient Greece, including its government, culture, and lasting influence on the modern world. Students should be prepared for a quiz next week. In English, students are reading The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963, and discussing its characters, themes, and historical connections.
This month, sixth graders have been busy learning across all subject areas. In science, students are studying atoms, matters, and mixtures, learning how different substances are formed and interact. In math, classes are working on a straw rocket project that combines measurement, problem solving, and creativity. In social studies, students are exploring the geography, culture, and history of Central America and are preparing for a quiz at the end of the week. In English, students are writing an essay about the Himalayas and working on comparative writing assignments, using evidence from their text to compare different topics. Students have been working hard and showing great effort in all of their classes.
Overall, the majority of the middle school students have had a great year, and we are all looking forward to a summer. We hope you all enjoy your summers as well. Thank you for having us, and have a good night.
That's a question.
Oh, yeah, hang on.
Hold on,
We've got,
they have questions for you.
we've got pressing questions.
But that was really smart, just get up and walk away, I love it.
So questions.
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
First of all, shout out to the chorus and band because I was at the concert and they did an excellent job last week. Did you guys say that Step Up Day is the 15th?
Yes.
Is that true? I'm only going to Mr. Coyne because you're in the room.
Oh,
Eight.
Oh, it's just for 8th.
No, 8 is the date of Step Up.
Oh, the 8th. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Everyone,
The whole district is on the 8th.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So I just saw that and I was like, wait a minute. Appreciate it. You guys, yes. You
Hang on.
Oh, thank you so much, you guys.
Hold on, hold on, hold on.
Wait, sorry.
Go back.
It was all for her.
More questions?
Yes. Anyone else? So what are your plans for the summer?
Practice art. I'm planning on practicing anatomy and learning more about the human body, because I've noticed that I've been struggling a lot when it comes to that, and the proportions are off, so I'm gonna really work on that.
And mine is to get more sleep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in this evening. We thoroughly enjoyed having you come.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
great having
you.
Any more questions? Any more questions?
Now you can get up.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is a great strategy, right?
It is. It is. Sometimes it works too. Anybody here for public comment? Seeing that there is none, let's move over to old business.
We don't have any?
We're moving into new business and the superintendent's report,
All right,
please.
happy to have Jared Stan and Jack Coyne on middle school and high school coming up, athletic directors. One of the things we've noticed, and they're gonna dive into it, is we've struggled fielding teams. And I think that's not just here in Douglas, but it's all over. And the goal is always to make sure we have a healthy varsity program. And there are some instances in which we have JV programs, but there's also been some years we can't field a JV program, but we also don't have a middle school program. So they have a pretty creative solution that's cost neutral, which is always
Which is
great.
That's a key,
yep,
that's a
Right?
key,
And is going to be able to provide more kids the ability to participate in sports. So, did I set the table? Did I tee it up all right for you?
Well, actually, that was my, actually, did you get my copy that I sent you? Because that's word for word. I was just gonna,
Perfect.
word for word, I was just gonna say.
Right.
So as Dr. Vieira just said, we, when I kind of took over and Jack and I kind of got together, we realized that the changing dynamic of sports, kind of looked at it, we had to look at it from a whole perspective of not just high school and not just middle school, but a kind of comprehensive thing. So hopefully this is a short, quick presentation, because we saw the agenda tonight, so we want to make sure that we get everybody home before 11. And I'll turn it over to Jack first.
So our goal is to create a flexible opportunity for us to make the best decisions every year for the kids who are in front of us. We have 3 levels available to us for some sports, but not all sports. Varsity level is the most opportunity for students, competitive. That's our priority, to field a strong varsity team. Below that, to build skills, we have 2 options. We have the JV level and the middle school level. They both have similar functions but work a little bit differently depending on who the competition is. So our goal is to make some decisions that will help us field the most appropriate team based on the kids in front of us each year. So again, our varsity, we talk about competitiveness. Junior varsity, we're building skills. And middle school, we're appropriately building team, building programs, introducing more athletes to the sport as much as we can. So,
Yeah, so when we kind of looked at our athletic programs, we saw that on this chart we have all our varsity programs that we offer. I know it's very busy, but I wanted to make sure there's some pictures in there to kind of connect it. But those are all our varsity sports we offer. That does not include our co-ops. Then our JV programs that we offer in our middle school sports. And when we looked at this cross country, there really isn't a JV cross country anywhere in the area. So our middle school in our varsity. Golf, there's also no middle school golf programs in the area because traditionally what happens is that the younger kids in 7th and 8th grade are more like practice players on the range, so that was kind of its own thing. But for baseball, softball, and both soccers, we realized we didn't really have an equivalent option for middle school to play at appropriate levels. Traditionally, it had been, our JV program had been mostly middle school, and we thought that maybe creating another option to play middle school athletes might benefit everybody, get more numbers into the program for more sustainability, and kind of just make sure that we're building for the future in this changing dynamic. So basically what Jack and I are proposing is to make additions to Appendix C and add in a boys middle school soccer coach, a girls middle school soccer coach, a middle school baseball coach, and a middle school softball coach. And that's basically the heart of this, is try to add that option, and not necessarily, we're going to talk about it later, but not adding a 3rd team, but creating this flexibility within the program.
So again, this is not saying that we're going to run all 3 teams. We know that that's not feasible number-wise or even financially wise at the moment. But it would allow us to every year look at the students that we have signed up who are in front of us and decide what is the best option for those players who signed up. This has worked well for our basketball program. We've been able to, over the past couple of years, make those decisions. Girls basketball is a good example this year. This year we ran a varsity level team. We didn't have enough for a JV level, but we ran a middle school level because that was what was appropriate for the kids who signed up. Other years we've done the opposite, where we've had varsity and JV but not had middle school, based on the age of the students who are signing up and what's appropriate for them. So by having these in the contract already, it will allow us to make those decisions in the best interest every year for what we need to do.
Yeah. And just off this slide, what we're kind of looking at, so potentially if we do a varsity and middle school makeup, and this would be like for numbers' sake, but we gave the example where varsity would be predominantly grades 9 through 12. Depending upon numbers, there is a mid-level waiver, which I'll explain in a second, to fill out the rosters. But like, as Jack said, it's that flexibility and truly creating 2 different aspects. Now, the next slide is really busy. So, but what I really want to kind of focus on here is that this is all our middle school, all our participants this past year. And I kind of wanted to look at baseball, because unfortunately we all know what happened with baseball and the numbers weren't great. So we had 3 Douglas athletes, 4 Whitesville Christian athletes, 1 homeschool student, and then 1 middle school student. And if we potentially had a middle school program in our appendix, we probably might have been able to scrap our varsity program, pivot, and potentially create a 6 through 8 middle school team to maybe get some numbers. In addition to that, as Jack kind of mentioned, our basketball programs. So this year for boys basketball, we had 32 athletes, which with those numbers, we were able to get 3 teams. But with our girls basketball, we only had 22 numbers, grades 6 through 12. So that's when the decision was made to run a varsity program in a middle school. So basically, this whole idea is, to try to create the flexibility and create communication between both buildings, that what's in the best interest of fielding a competitive varsity team and creating those appropriate levels, kind of working backwards.
Yeah, and then because we're not looking to add any additional teams, we are just looking to change the level and have that flexibility. It's cost neutral because it's already been budgeted for as the high school level for that team. If it becomes a middle school level, the money's already been put aside for that purpose. It would just change which school it's run out of, but it would be the same function.
Okay, and then like our last slide is basically our kind of our big picture was that, I'm just going to kind of read it verbatim. So this is not about adding a third team to Douglas Athletics, but rather restructuring the current model to provide flexibility within the athletic department. And the goal is to create a 2-team system that can be adjusted on a year-to-year and sport-to-sport basis to support varsity programs, while also providing appropriate competition for our JV or our middle school teams. So that's kind of like what we kind of envisioned for this. Now, following those two, now we just walk right off, right? No questions, we just walk right off. But honestly, any questions? I know we went through quickly, but we'd be happy to answer any questions about what we see in the future or what kind of transpired with this.
Who wants to go first?
Through the chair.
Absolutely.
So this is lovely, and I'm very confused, but I trust you guys.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be candid.
Yep.
So maybe I just won't even talk about my confusion, but I will ask my question.
Yep.
So have you guys talked to the town teams? Because I know the Douglas Youth Soccer is pretty rigorous. Does this in any way compete with that program?
So my daughter does play, so I have a couple daughters that are in the program, they play town. So traditionally, we've had, the addition for this year would be the 6th graders coming in. So like last year in our program, 7th graders, so for the past 20 years, we've had usually anywhere between 7 to 10 7th graders. They've actually able to play town as well. And what we've always kind of said was that the flexibility with the town programs, with middle school and JV, there's that freedom to give them, if you need to miss a practice here and there, or if you get overworked because of the day-to-day. But yes, which shouldn't take away from the town. We usually kind of promote kids to continue playing with the town. And the kind of, one thing that maybe wasn't clear is that the reason why we also went to structure was that there's something called the mid-level waiver with the MIAA, which basically says that if you don't have enough numbers to fill out a varsity program, if you get a waiver of, let's say, girls basketball, to bring up girls basketball to play in 8th grade to play varsity, or to fill out numbers at the high school level, they can only play the lowest level offered at that school. So for boys, in the fall, for boys and girls soccer, we had 8 seniors graduating on the boys' side, 7 girls graduating, and on the girls' side, there were only 2 8th graders that played, so the numbers could be short. So just basically trying to sustain our varsity programs, and this is really the change, because before, the MIA allowed waivers to play on the varsity team to keep numbers. So it kind of just necessitated a change from the MIA that kind of forced our hands a little bit with this as well.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly,
Yeah.
we are looking to add just positions for the middle school, which would open up the flexibility
Yes.
in case
Yes,
there's a number issue.
Yes, exactly, yep,
So this is just looking forward, the positions there in case it needs to be filled.
exactly, yeah.
The goal would always be
Okay.
in some of these sports, like we'll take soccer because that's one of the proposals. The goal would be to field a varsity and a junior varsity program.
Mhm.
But sometimes what ends up happening is you have enough numbers for the varsity, JV's kind of weak in numbers. So then you end up calling up a bunch of middle school kids to field that JV team because you need your feeder system for varsity. So now you have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders playing a JV schedule against high school kids which isn't always great. So in some scenarios, what might be a better option for Douglas would be to not have a JV team and take the current high school kids, and instead of carrying 17 on varsity, carry 22.
Yep.
But then take the 20 kids at the middle school who want to play soccer and and offer middle school soccer that year. So then those kids can feed into the program the next year.
Developmentally, you're having like
In your
players
own-
play against
Yeah.
like players.
Okay.
But you wouldn't take, say, an 11th grader who's never played the sport and put them in middle school?
No,
No, we
No,
can't,
no,
can't,
no,
they
do that.
can't.
Okay,
No,
no.
that's where I was
No.
Yep.
really confused.
Yeah, the waiver is very strict. You can't take, it's not talent-based, it's just numbers-based. So you can never cut a high school kid for a middle school kid, and it's all uniform with that. And it really is about protecting, everybody's right to play sports.
So it's kind of like it really is now in a lot of,
Yeah.
from like the non-people that go behind the scenes and know this, it really won't look any different for the kids now.
No, the only thing is that we're actually opening up potentially for these sports, sixth graders to play, opening up another grade to play middle school. So it's creating more opportunities, but it's really behind the scenes, just trying to change the name to adhere to the MIA.
Yeah.
The big picture, the vision would be, if we can gain some momentum, it'd be awesome to come back here in 2-3 years and say, we're now able to run 3 levels of soccer, 3 levels of baseball, and 3 levels of softball, which we haven't been able to do in a long, long time.
It's been a while.
And just like a last point, just because if there's people watching at home, we're not adding new positions. These are just stipends. So we just had a budget reduction, and we just had to do things with staff. But these are positions that have a stipend. We're not going, are we hiring?
They're already in the budget.
They're not in the,
Yeah.
They're already in the budget
Yeah.
that's been
well,
approved.
just to be clear, they're not. So we have at the, if you look at Appendix C, there is a varsity soccer coach boys and a junior varsity soccer coach for boys. There isn't a middle school soccer coach. So we have to create a middle school soccer coach position, but we always fund varsity and JV.
Right, you're gonna enter.
So it's the same money.
It's the
just
same amount of,
dynamic.
it's the same amount of money, so it's cost neutral. So we would either run JV or middle school, but we are creating 4 new positions.
Four new positions,
4 new
yeah.
positions.
Without adding any
But
additional.
we're not adding any
salary
additional
money.
dollars to the budget, correct?
What
Just
if we
if we
did
were-
have the numbers for all 3?
Then we would.
If we have the numbers in September for all 3.
Not for this year, but I just mean in the, because this year is not probably gonna happen.
It would be awesome to come back and have to, as Jared and Jack are budgeting with the principals and Diane, to say, hey, look, we look like we're gonna have the ability to run all 3
Okay.
programs, we do it. A program is roughly about $15,000. Once you take coaches' stipends, you take uniforms, you take transportation, you take referees, it's about $15,000 a program to run.
We currently have 2 sports that have all 3 that we just had last year. And the numbers are always a dicey type game. Boys basketball had all 3 last year. And for the first time, we just added girls volleyball had all 3. So it's happened, but it's difficult. Those are smaller number sports is also the difference there.
Are you still gonna have like swing players, so people that are on like the JV team that will still field?
Yeah, like,
They practice with like the varsity team and then,
so it would be, yes, so that would be the swing players. So if you did a middle school and varsity program, the only eligible would be the 8th graders would be the only group that would be allowed to swing. Just because of the way the waiver works is that you have to go that entire grade first before you can go into the 7th. So,
no, that
so for example, if it was volleyball, only the 8th graders, if we got a waiver, could swing back and forth. But yeah, so it'd probably be a little less of that, but.
I have a bunch,
Yep.
sorry.
Yep, absolutely, yep.
Number 1, I think the thing just went out for fall sports.
Yes, yep.
Okay, so are we gonna talk to parents about potentially middle school soccer? Or what's the messaging to parents right now for this upcoming fall season and registration?
Yeah, so the catalyst of this was that just to sustain the varsity programs for next year. So, because like with the numbers for soccer in particular, we'll kind of focus on that because that's kind of coming up. There was a big loss with not a lot of 8th graders coming in. So our anticipated, so we're going to tell parents that if things get approved tonight, our anticipated teams would be a middle school soccer program for boys and girls and a varsity program with no JV.
Okay.
Yep, so that would, and if numbers change, we could always pivot from there. But I think that is a sound assessment of where we're kind of at.
Okay.
Both soccer teams last year that were JV were made up almost entirely of middle schoolers. So they were de facto middle school teams, but playing at the varsity level against, at the JV level against JV teams.
Yep.
This would allow us to have them play against middle school teams. It'd still be the same pool of kids.
Yep.
So when Reg opens, parents from middle school all the way through for soccer this coming season can register? Okay.
Yep.
And if they come to the athletic thing, I think it's on the 15th?
Yep.
Yep.
They can kind of come and ask those questions?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And then volleyball would be all three, would offer all three for volleyball again. And we'll see what the numbers are. In a perfect world, like, because that's going to be close, but we would offer up all three and try to get as many people as we can in that situation.
Okay. Next, I just kind of want to piggyback off of what Julia said, which is I think I would beg of you to reach out to all of our town sports to just get like kind of a feel, especially with baseball. Like I was so distraught that we did not run baseball. I really encourage you to reach out to the board.
We did. They actually don't have a baseball team for 8th grade. That was our big problem. So there
For
was
8th grade,
Yeah.
got it. It is a lot of 7th graders on the team right
Yeah.
now. So they pushed their season so that they could do track.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they have a team of 17 kids right now.
Right.
So it would have been really nice to actually have a middle school baseball.
That's what we
team.
had heard when we reached out. There was no 8th grade team because we couldn't get a waiver for 7th graders to play varsity.
Right.
So-
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's with the middle school. So we were aware that the 7th graders were loaded, but the 8th graders, there wasn't a team there. So that's kind of one of the flexibility we were kind of talking about.
Yeah,
for these guys.
and I think they are fine pushing their season so that they could play school sports and then get to play, just later on their town sports. And then lastly, I just had a question. This might not be for you. This might be for you, which is I know that we are not sitting here talking about some of our co-op opportunities. In these instances where, let's say, we can't field some of these teams, when is the point in which our school district decides there was enough interest that we want to try to co-op with other towns?
You want to talk about the co-op and how that all works?
Yeah, so basically the co-op, there's basically 3 levels you have to go through. It has to be approved by your building, then it's an agreement with the participating school, then it's got to be cleared by the league, and then it's got to be cleared by the MIAA.
Okay.
So there's a lot of layers, so that process is probably about a month and a half. And then you're guaranteed, you're locked in for 2 years. And the hosting school actually might have, not penalties is the wrong word, but then there could be a shift based upon what division they're in from the numbers that you brought in. So that's why I kind of left them out, but like our football co-op, we have a co-op with Oxford for last year and this year, which is pre-approved. And then we have to go through that process again. And Oxford could determine that we don't necessarily want Douglas kids. The kids that are in the program would continue to be grandfathered in, and we'd have to look for another one. So we had a co-op with Whitesville Christian that was approved for 2 years for baseball.
Oh, okay.
So we only had 8 kids between both schools.
For varsity.
For varsity.
Okay.
So.
But we are approved, so this coming season, you could still try to pull
Exactly,
from
yeah.
Whitensville.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so there's a process. So I would say it's easily about a 2-month process. So it can't really be done last second because of all the layers that are put into it.
Got it. Okay, so if you see like strong numbers register for this fall, but we just fell short by a few kids, we might have the potential for the following year?
Yes, exactly.
The
yeah.
following year.
Okay.
Yeah, so
got
we're
it.
already kind of looking at potential baseball options for next year right now with some, like,
Good.
trying to get ahead of it, but that's why we're trying to get this, kind of get as many kids as we can registered and build from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the co-op is, it's a lot.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anybody else?
And I know, I think came up last week, do we ever do topics not anticipated? Tonight, we will do a topic not anticipated, which is having you approve the 4 positions because it didn't make it onto the consent agenda item.
So moved.
So, motion made by Beth, seconded by?
Meg.
Second by Meg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you so much.
you go.
Congratulations.
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much.
All right. So, and again, thank you to Jack and Diana,
Thank
and
you.
Karen, who really worked together to put this proposal together, make sure it's cost neutral, but it's really looking at making sure we're able to field our teams. Kids are able to play, like as I said, it's tough when you have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, or 7th and 8th graders playing a JV schedule against 10th, 11th graders. So thank you to you guys for putting this together, so
Thank you.
we appreciate it.
Thank you.
As you're walking out the door, all right. All right. So next on the agenda is our school improvement plans. Principals came to you back in September, October, and presented their plans and their outlines of what they were going to do. They're coming up now just to give you a brief overview of how they were able to accomplish some of the goals, not accomplish some of the goals, come close with some of the goals. But I always like to do this because, you know, I like to show that closure, that we do put things in place. We try to accomplish them over the year, but I like to report out on them at the end of the year. So I will be handling the middle school. So I'm gonna have Cindy go first, and Ken, then me, and then Mr. Ringett.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
So the first goal is my data goal on student achievement, and I always shoot for the stars, and I didn't make it, but that's okay. I didn't make 100% of all the students, but we did really well anyway, and I'm very pleased with the response from the staff and their resources, and using UDL, and using all of the things that we talked about, all different strategies, and small group differentiation. Preschool started the year, and they only do the ELA, and this is a new assessment for preschool, at 57% at or above the benchmark, and they ended the year at 97%. Kindergarten ELA started at 79%, ended at 84%. Kindergarten math started at 75% and ended at 81%. The kindergarten math has been a little tricky, and they didn't always have it. And the teachers came to me and they said, kids are crying, they're taking the math, what's going on with this? They were getting questions right off the first question, second, on multiplication, expanded notation, and things that are definitely not leveled. And I know that the test does that to calibrate, but they don't do it first question, so the kids were getting frustrated. So I called Renaissance and found out, oh, there's this little thing that you can check off hidden inside the program somewhere. So we're looking into that you can set and put it at the level. And it hasn't happened at the other grade levels so much. It's more that beginning of the, series of kindergarten math. So we'll see how that works next year, but it would have been nice to know that ahead of time. But the poor kids, we can't do this, so. Grade 1 ELA started the year at 78%, ended at 91%, and in math, started at 72% and ended at 91%. So, and again, this is just the result of ISSPs and adjusting the instruction constantly throughout the year to accommodate and do student growth and make sure that they are achieving. My second goal was ISIL, Instruction, Curriculum, Environment, and Learner. And this was providing teachers with professional development, which we did early in the year. So we had different scenarios that they had to work in groups, like so-and-so has trouble paying attention. So where does that fall in ISIL? And what do you do to, change that? We did walkthroughs. We're looking for ISIL strategies. We had different kinds of handouts. There's all different kind of pictures and charts and everything for teachers. So we spent some time on that, and that was something new for them. They had never really seen too much of that. So that was good. Social emotional learning, that's just ongoing. We change the topics monthly, and Mrs. Purvis does a great job with selecting books. She changes it up sometimes. Sometimes the teachers will say to her, hey, my kids are having a hard time in the classroom. They're arguing or they're not sharing. So she'll change the book just for that class and go in there and really address the social issue that's going on. We have the bulletin board that matches the theme. We announce it. We do the book raffle at the end of the month, things like that.
Another big hit was the lunch bunch groups that they've been doing, and they've been changing those groups as the year goes by according to the teachers or what they're seeing. So kids that are having a hard time making friends or, being social, they have lunch with Mrs. Purvis, Mrs. Thompson, and then they do an activity after they have their lunch. So the kids love going there, so that has been a huge plus.
I'm going to extend things just a little bit. Speaking of SEL, right, we talk about kids, it's also important for staff. Can you fill us in on what you did for your staff meeting on Monday?
Complete chaos. I didn't tell
Controlled.
my staff what the meeting was going to be. I had an agenda, and I said, we're meeting in the gym, and wear sneakers and casual clothing. Nobody said a word, no one questioned it. So I walked into the gym on Monday, they were all lined up against the wall. I said, oh, circle up, people, let's go, circle up. So we all sat on the floor in the circle, went through a few things, talked about celebrations, things like that. I had the physical education teacher from the elementary and our teacher too, Mr. Smith came, planned a couple of events for our teachers, and we called it Faculty Field Day or Fun Day. So we had to get into teams, so we had that all figured out, and we had to catch the tail, whatever that game is, or you had to attach with shoulders 6 people, so there were 3 groups of us, and the last person had a tail, and you had to catch that tail and grab that tail. Well, you could hear screaming and yelling all the way down the hallway. The person that was subbing for the secretary said, what is going on in there?
We actually
was-
heard it down in our office, kind of like the meteor on Saturday. It was so
It was
loud.
hysterical. People were diving on the floor. I mean, so we did a few rounds of that. We had a score person and keeping that. And then we did, the other activity was just like a volleyball in a circle, 6 people. How many times can you keep the volleyball up in the air? So it was so much fun. The teachers loved it. I got an email the next, that night saying how it was nice to work with people that are not in our team, because even though we're a small building, a first grade teacher might not really know a new preschool teacher or a special education teacher if they're not working that closely with them. So it was a lot of fun, and they really needed it, but I hesitated because I said, oh, I don't know, they're gonna be mad, they're gonna not wanna do this, they're gonna moan and groan, but they didn't. And I think Mrs. Smith had a blast too, just watching us. So, and there are videos, but we're not sharing those. Family engagement, well, that one just didn't fly at all. So the goal was for me to host a monthly parent-principal roundtable. And I kind of put that out there to the PTO. I said, what would be a good time? And they all decided, first thing in the morning, because people are dropping kids off, so 8:45, 9 o'clock. So the first month I had it, I had 1 parent show up. And after that, nothing at all. So it just didn't fly. I don't know why it didn't, but we just continue to do what we do. I do a blog every Friday with pictures of what went on during the week. I've been trying to put it out there on ThrillShare, like during the week, just kind of post something on Instagram, Facebook. I put it into Power School, just headlines, dates to remember. We still do our family events. And then this year I used the text messaging to remind parents of different things, so. And that's it. Any questions?
I do. Just quick question, a couple of things. Thank you for all the work that you and your staff did. In your STAR testing, this is just something that's always curious to me. How many kids didn't take the STAR testing? Did like the whole building take it? Or, because I think about kids that maybe are in sub-separate programming or have different needs, did they access the benchmark testing?
They did, and I think we're looking to change that a little bit too, because it's difficult for someone that isn't ready, having a bad day. So they did take it. Some of the results were surprising, through the year, but sometimes the beginning of the year one, we tested, then by the time that we do the middle one, we couldn't test them. So we did make an attempt to test everyone.
That's something that's always very interesting to me, because not just Douglas, but in
Right.
general, we have these tests, but we don't give kids in that level of instruction actual benchmark testing that they can actually access. So it's
Right.
just something. And then my last question would just be, I so appreciate all that you guys did for your SEL. Like that's, I was a preschool teacher for 10 years. Like that's my jam. I love those kids. What's hard I think for me, and this is, again, general topic, we see all the things that the teachers did. We see all the things that the school adjustment counselors did. We see all this curriculum and program. We don't see outcomes from the students. Like, we don't have anything to measure. And I'm saying measure, they're 4.
Right.
But like,
Right.
how do we know that stuff's actually working? Like, how do we actually know that what we're doing is
Right.
working?
So we've had the ability to do that with Panorama for, what, is it as early as third grade? Second grade?
It's third grade.
Third grade up, we've been able to measure it with, but there's some, we've uncovered a lot of issues with Panorama. So first off, the Panorama assessment is 70 questions long. Right, so
Yeah.
as adults, you saw your reaction. As a second, third, 8th grader, 9th grader, by the time you get to the 7th or 8th question, you know where you're at. The other thing is the way the questions are worded is really confusing and tricky for kids. And we had this discussion at the middle school. There's one question around growth mindset. I've used the example a lot. Are you able to get smarter? So kids say, well, no, I am where I am. And so the answer is no. So then so our results are negatively impacted when what the essence of the question is asking is, do you have the ability to learn and grow and get better? And the answer is yes to that. So what a lot of our counselors did this year is go in and have conversations with kids around not to skew the results, but what do these questions actually mean when it says, do you have the ability to get smarter? Or can you control your behavior? You ask a 7th grader if they can, exactly, right? The answer is no, right? But deep down inside, yes, we all have the ability to control our behavior. Whether we choose to is another thing. So that's part of the issue with the Panorama questionnaire, in that it's, the questions are tricky. So next year, because of the budget, we're no longer with Panorama. They were expensive. They were pushing $20,000 next year. And I've already talked to the middle school adjustment counselors, and we're going to work on it over the summer. We're going to create another assessment to be able to do it. It's probably not going to be 70 questions long.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful, and I appreciate that. I just think, like, as we go, right, we're already thinking about what next year is going to look like. So as we write our goals for next year and we talk about that, I just would like to see something, whether it's, playground engagement with kids on the playground, like, anything that we can tangibly look at. What are the kids actually getting out of it? Because we can read all the great books in the world, but if that's not what they're engaging with and that's not how they're getting their lesson, not that it was a waste of time, but it wasn't the most effective.
Sure. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Haynes is coming up. Speaking of field day, getting ready for elementary school field day tomorrow.
Had a good field trip today too, right?
Good field trip.
Yeah, they had a good time.
Heard it
It
was
was,
good.
it was STEM day at the Woosocks, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was Woosocks was 8th and 5th today.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for letting me talk about our school improvement plans at the elementary school. I'd like to start with our first school improvement plan, which is in student learning, and the actual goal is by June 2026, each grade level team will attain a student growth percentage of 50 as defined by the end of year STAR. Now, to let you know what we call the SGP, student growth percentile, it's basically, it measures academic progress by students to that of their peers across the country, right? So similarly performing peers across the country. So we test in the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, then the end of the year. So that's what the student growth percentile is. And again, our goal was to have, if you think about your traditional bell curve, right? You've got your score 50. So 50 shows expected growth, right? So that's what you should expect to see from your students over a course of a certain period of time. And we hadn't seen that, really. Like last year, we hadn't really seen that at the elementary school. And this was something that we got, right from the jump. At the beginning of the year, we were talking about our math scores and a commitment on the part of our entire team to improve our math scores. And I'm really happy to say that, I can say to you all now that as a school, each grade level team attained an average student growth percentage of 50, as defined by the end of the year STAR assessment. So each of the teams, grade 2, 56, grade 3, 54, grade 4, 51, grade 5, 51, for an average for the entire school of 53%. So, and I'll use the term collective teacher efficacy, right? It's something that we talked about at the very beginning of the year. If we all focus on this, if we all roll up our sleeves, if we all dive into the data, if we all, demonstrate fidelity to the curriculum, if we all focus on this, if we take our CPTs, dedicate a higher percentage of our CPTs, let's say, to talking about math and figuring out how to best assess kids, interventions, how best to group kids, find the right interventions, how to best support their needs, then this should be reflected in our performance over the course of the year. And I really feel that this does that. And so it was really nice. We weren't playing chase the tail or whatever, with all due respect, but it was really nice to have our staff meeting the other day on Monday, and for us to for me to be able to stand up in front of everyone and just thank them and just say we did it. It was a really, really good feeling, great way to end the year. So we did meet that goal, and it's something that I think everyone's really, really proud of. So that was our student learning goal. Next, our next goal by June 2026, DES students will demonstrate improvement in no less than 80% of Panorama's SEL competency areas from scores attained at the beginning of the year assessment. And unfortunately, we did not meet this goal. We wanted to see, there's really 10 areas, and I was hoping that 8 of those 10 areas we would see an increase. Unfortunately, it was kind of flatlined, but there were a couple of 20% we did actually see some growth. Basically, that can be attributed to a number of things. One of the things is that our tiger traits, which we focus on, and it's something that I've talked, ad nauseum here, don't completely align with the subjects that the assessment, that the Panorama assessment assesses. So we're kind of teaching a bunch of different things. So it kind of dilutes the emphasis on some of those Panorama areas. But it's not all bad news, because it wasn't like we went down in a lot of areas. And the survey results indicate that Douglas Elementary, we continue to foster a highly supportive, caring, relationship-centered environment. So there were certain areas, emotion regulation and social awareness were 2 areas where we were improved, but supportive relationships, classroom effort, empathy, things like that are areas of strength here. So if you look at the all the results of the Panorama survey, I'm really pleased with a lot of those results where we are. Like, and one area in particular, and I know, as parents, is it's the relationship, like trusted adults. We scored in a really high on that as a school. And if you think about it as a parent, like, you really want to know that your kids find that, like, trust the adults. And this is in comparison across the country. We just scored very high in that area. So there are some real strengths there. But did we hit the goal? No. But it's not all. There was some good news to draw from this as well. School Improvement 3, which is our family engagement goal. By June 2026, the elementary school will have reduced the percentage of students with 10 or more absences from 40% to 20%. Again, we did not meet this goal. I'm sorry to say, there were a number of things we did, a lot of outreach efforts. We did an information campaign, newsletters. We sent home attendance letters, formal attendance letters, when certain, attendance or, missed days of school benchmarks were met, bringing those to the attention of the families. And we actually even had the staff write personalized notes, send them home to families saying, hey, we miss you, just, so that was, we made a good effort to do so. And basically, we didn't hit 20, it was 34%. So, but again, more good news is that 2 years ago it was 50%. It went down to 40%. Now we're at 34%. So we're trending in the right direction. I feel like that was an ambitious goal, but just looking ahead, we can do better. We will do better. Anyway, though, so that was the third goal. So that's it. So are there any questions?
Any questions?
I'm just wanted to say thank you so much. This is, as a parent, this is my last year with you. I'm devastated that this will be my last elementary graduation next week,
Wow.
but I love everything that you do at the elementary school. You do such a great job.
Thank
The
you.
kids just are so happy and
Oh.
so excited for field day tomorrow.
Well,
So
yes.
thank you for everything. that
Thank you.
do.
I'm lucky to be there, be here. So thank you, and the kids are wonderful, and we'll miss having you as a parent, but we'll see you at the graduation.
I'll be sitting here.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Thank you.
I'll carry your torch.
Okay.
There you go.
And you're moving up, right?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right.
So I will just say, you measure like, I know we raised the bar, right? But we've had great progress. So while, it's not all bad, right? And that's what I really think we should be taking away from it. It's not that we didn't hit the mark. We still made progress from where we were before. And I think we should celebrate that, right? The staff has worked, ad nauseum on all of these different goals that we have and benchmarks we've had this past year. And to not recognize that, which I know we're recognizing them, but I'm not disappointed with the results that we're seeing because we are making progress, right? It's in the best interest of our students is what we have it's in our hearts. So, while we'd like to have that in that 90 percentile, right? But we are making progress, and I think that's the thing that we need to take away from this is we are still making progress from where we were last year.
And I think when you see that, you know what I mean, when you look 170, 68 or whatever many days ago it was that we had those conversations, and to see, okay, like, can we do this? And to put in the effort throughout the year, like you said, everyone's exhausted, everyone's crawling across the finish line, right, that 180th day. But to see that you made progress, it's uplifting.
Yes.
And then it gives you momentum as we go into next year and, focus on new things. But know that, together we can do it. And they did a great job. And
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
so
Thank you.
that's the big takeaway. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, all
As we
right.
tell the kids growth mindset, we're not there yet.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
But we'll never get there if we don't keep setting high goals.
Correct.
Right.
So I'm going to channel my inner Mr. O'Brien and my inner Mr. Bishop as I present their school improvement plan. I also want to thank the teachers. Bill was in the process of putting this together when he went out. Teachers were able to finish the project, so I really thank the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers and special area teachers who helped put this together so we could present it. So the year started off with four priority areas: academic excellence, community partnerships, the well-being evolved, and instructional leadership. So under academic excellence, some of the things that happened at the middle school were the integration and the implementation of the new EB academics writing program for our ELA students. So really excited about that. And then one thing that the staff wanted to work on was making sure that they could take that writing program and integrate it into science and social studies classes. So it was across the curriculum. So there was that. And then this year was the first year we had the full win block. So again, met with varying degrees of success and happiness and joy depending on where in the year we were and who you talked to. But we're continuing to work on that win block as a great way to offer that Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions. Community partnerships, we continue with the Ed Kennedy Institute, with 8th grade field trip to learn about the Electoral College. This year, we created another partnership with the high school where Spanish classes came to the middle school to share fairy tales. And a big shout out to Ms. Markopoulos, who hosted the first ever career fair for 7th and 8th graders, where we brought in people from the outside to do that. For well-being of all, again, that focus on that data. And again, we had a good meeting in January. We used the panorama data, and we were noticing that there really was a whole lot of growth from the beginning to the end of the middle school, to the middle of the year. We sat with special area teachers, we sat with special education, I believe Angela was there, and Bob and myself, and really it came down to kids were struggling with the question. It was the length of the test, and it was not understanding the questions. So shout out again to Jen and to Kayla, who went into classrooms and kind of talked a little bit about what we were doing and what those questions meant and how to look at them differently and how to attack them differently. and again, the teachers who implemented the curriculum, which was great. And then for Bob, for instructional leadership, was going through and doing those class walkthroughs to make sure that that ELA and that math curriculum that we got last year in math, this year in ELA, was being integrated into the classroom. Teachers were using them, kids were engaging with them, and what that looked like. And I hope I did justice to Bob and Bill and to the staff in presenting that.
What is the update on, so remind me, the year before, we had picked curriculum, and then I think Bob had decided, like, this did not go well or something, so then this is the first year with the new curriculum for ELA and for math.
So, 2 years ago, we had a math curriculum, vetted it out, staff didn't like it.
Okay.
So then we switched from user A to user B. So so we're in the second year of having a structured curriculum, but we're in the first year this year of using curriculum B. And then we're in the first year of using the structured ELA curriculum. So what we tried to do is not to have the massive influx of funding all in 1 year. We did math 1 year and ELA the next. But, so ELA, math was 2 years ago, ELA was this year, but they didn't like the math program last year, so they're using a new one this year.
So do we have any feedback as to how it went overall for the staff? Or how the kids adapted better to it? Not yet? Okay.
I don't have the, I'm sure if I asked staff, they could give you that. I didn't ask that question. If Bill or Bob were here, they could probably answer it. I mean, asking kids how they liked math and ELA.
Yeah, I mean, they're not gonna.
Probably not. We know what we're gonna get for answers, but I know that I didn't hear anything negative about it, like I did for the math curriculum. Looking to change.
That's
So I'm gonna
good.
go with
That's
no news
progress.
is good news. I
Yeah.
know that Mrs. Hayes and Ms. Ford in the 7th and 8th grade loved that EB curriculum. Robin in the 6th grade has her own thing, so she's integrated some of what she's done with a lot of this stuff and blended them together, but I know in my conversations with Kathleen, she loves it.
Good, okay.
Asking kids how they like writing.
Yeah, they're not gonna.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions?
Well, I just want to say thank the staff for helping out,
Yeah.
right? Because it was all hand on deck. So, and the administration too as well, because I know we're pulling from different schools just to help out in the middle school. So I do truly appreciate it. So, thank you.
And finally, Mr. Ringett, and as he walks out, I just want to say how touching graduation was this year. Rob and his staff did, as always, a great job with graduation. This year, we had the tragedy of losing 2 seniors, and the dedication, the tribute, the honoring of them and having their parents there was very moving and very touching. And kudos to you and to your staff for putting that together and honoring those 2 students, but also the other graduates. And then to everyone who was able to pivot at, I think you made the call at 7:40 in the morning to go from outside to inside. We were so happy at 4:20 when we saw some sprinkles of rain coming down. We're like, all right, it's raining. It didn't hold off the whole thing, but we had rain, so it was good. But thank you for that, Rob.
It's good when the weather vindicates decisions. I'll say that.
All right.
But thank you. I do appreciate that. Graduations in those situations are never light. So I just hope we did the families right by what we were able to do. But goals. So school improvement plans. So obviously we had our 3 lofty goals. We wanted to make progress in all of them, and I'm happy to report out that our first goal, which was to create and foster a pathway for all students to achieve competency as determined by the district and the state to ensure all students have a pathway through rigorous curriculum to a high school diploma, because that was a big thing moving into this year, was what was going to be the kind of like the determining factor replacing MCAS. So this goal was 100% completed. So that was nice. We collaborated fairly regularly at the staff level with parents, with students to figure out what would be in everybody's best interest. We went through several revisions of it as we were all present for that. And we found a pathway for all students, which was really the goal, to get their high school diploma. So for that one, very successful, very happy about that. Our second goal under school culture, our goal was to improve school climate and learning by using data and research-based practices to improve student culture and their learning environment. Primarily, we had panorama data supporting that we were lacking in growth mindset, and that we weren't perfectly up to snuff on maybe self-efficacy, but at the same time, that's one set of data, and as we've said, that's a lot of questions in one sitting. There's additional information that sophomores will present after their MCAS exams in May, called vocal data, which is views of climate and learning. And that data provides other insights as to what's kind of going on with what they're seeing, what they're hearing in the hallways, their peer-to-peer interactions, things of that nature. So it helps kind of give us a different light on some of the similar things that we're lacking. So we started off really well, kind of hitting a topic a month at our faculty meetings, but hit a bit of a snag around the February mark, January-February mark, where we identified that growth mindset was really where we didn't have a hole, we had more of a ditch. So that became our focus for the rest of the year. We pressed pause on the others and just made that a primary focus. To kind of move in the right direction, we kicked it off with bringing in the Mass Partnership for Youth. They performed an hour-long PD for one of our staff meetings. I want to say the March 2nd staff meeting is when we did that, and that kicked us off in that direction. From then on, we continued to work. Each month we had kind of something to look at, something to kind of bring to the students in our classrooms as to what growth mindset really kind of looks like and what you can do with it in the learning environment. It will continue to be part of our goals next year. We're not done with it, and we're just going to keep rowing that boat in that direction. So, lastly, our third goal was on family engagement, that the high school will engage with the public on various platforms, including adding departmental information to the SMORE, monthly scheduled times for meet and greets, curriculum nights, family walkthroughs, and college prep night. So we had some success with this. It wasn't perfect, wasn't 100%. Several departments consistently communicated through the SMORE platform. It was great to see. They were on top of it, boom, 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 adding their pieces of information. It was great to see that that added piece, I want to say it's their, forget if it's their third or fourth standard on the teacher's rubric, but under family engagement, that's just one of the things you can do to kind of improve on that. Our counseling department expanded their opportunities. They had 3 nights. Two of them were college focused, as far as a financial aid night and the admissions process night. And then a third night was for the program of studies. Varying levels of success there. When we did in-person for the college nights, we had about 8, 9 families there. When we did the program of studies, we did that online, and we had about twice that in attendance for the program of studies night. So, and the format in which we did it, where we had everybody up there, if you had a question, you could only type it in the chat, couldn't see you, couldn't hear you, things like that. It helped. It helped. So at the end, we were able to answer any question that was posted in the chat, and we got positive feedback on that one, so which was really nice. So it kind of helped create some foundations for where to move forward. My nights out, first month I went out, I saw 1 parent, and then my second month out, I saw no parents. So my first night was at the Grill on Main. Second night was at Gregory's. I saw nobody. I went back to Gregory's one night, and I ate alone again. And then I went back to Grill on Main one more time, and I ate alone again. As much as I enjoy eating alone, so I put that in the back burner. And one of the things that came out of this past year's Winter Carnival, because Winter Carnival is really a really big event for the high school, and I'll be honest, we don't have the public involved enough on that. One of the good things that came out of that was people throwing around ideas about having one night be dedicated to a major decoration night, and have that night be where, maybe we have, families come in, watching their kids have fun, decorate, listen to music, get the gym ready, get the hallways ready, all that stuff. So that should be forthcoming next February. So, any questions?
I was just gonna say, like, I get to go in high school a little bit, and what I've noticed this year was the amount of parents that are going up to you more and talking to you and Desi more than I've kind of seen in the past, which is really nice. So, like, yeah, they might not be coming to, like, the formal family engagement stuff,
Right.
but they are connecting with you, and I just think, like, I don't know, the vibe in the high school right now, like, there's kids doing really different things than what they used to do.
Yep.
And, like, a lot of groups of kids, like, we all kind of know these kids because we've all been here, and, like, they're all doing different things, and that's not shown in here, but that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And we support all of that, and we want them to do what they enjoy doing. So,
Did hear you were looking for a grant for,
so there is a grant from the Attorney General's office.
that was the first thing I heard today after school.
So there is a grant that the Attorney General's office has put out there. I want to say the total grant value is somewhere around $500,000 or so for assistance to schools to help curb any costs towards the bell-to-bell phone-free piece that they're going through. So we have submitted our proposal. We submitted it the other night, and hopefully, if that comes through, we'll have a plan A. If that does not come through, we already have a plan B. So, yeah, I did present to the students the other day, kind of expectations moving into the next school year.
Yes,
Which-
in weekends, what weekends could look like.
Yes.
Yep, I heard that too.
And I feel like having another piece before suspension happens is very important. So next year, there's going to be a handful of Saturdays where, if need be, we can come back to the school.
Oh, we're gonna do that next year.
Spend some quality
Love
time
it.
for a few hours.
We're having the breakfast club?
Yeah.
love
Sure, we'll
it.
call it a breakfast club.
That's what it is. That's Saturday detention, right?
Yes.
Look,
So,
kids will be excited to come to the breakfast club with no breakfast, by the way.
But we definitely wanted to add a layer, because we were lacking a layer. So we're gonna, let's just say, the amount of volume for the phone situation that I discussed with the students was pretty low, because we've been telling them about this all year.
Yeah.
The level of volume I heard about the breakfast club or the Saturday morning hangouts with Mr. Ringet, that was much louder. And I chuckled to myself, and I did ask a few students later, I said, do you know why the auditorium was so loud? And they said, no. 90% of the noise was from students that that don't even experience an after-school detention, let alone anything else. And it's like, exactly. So, but to provide that extra layer before we reach an exclusionary piece
I'm
is
all
important.
about giving kids a chance to
Yep.
change, do what they need to do. I've given my own kid gloves and a sponge and said, go clean up what you messed up. So I'm all about it.
Yep. So, but yes, those two things did come out earlier this week, and it was exciting. An exciting group.
Any other questions?
I'll just make a blanket statement to all the principals. I feel like you beat yourself up a little bit on the SEL and the growth mindset data, but it's really hard to measure something qualitative with with a instrument that is numbers, right? Like you can't really gauge that. So that whole qualitative, quantitative piece, and I think that getting, I heard a couple of you say, getting those adjustment counselors in there and kind of like asking more questions and getting kids to talk about it, like in more focus group style, is gonna yield some better outcomes for you. And I just think that anything that you're doing is gonna make a big impact. So thanks for keeping up that work.
Actually, can I just jump in?
Absolutely.
Why not? I'm just kind of thinking actually of both these pieces, right? The growth mindset and phones. And there's a connection, spoiler alert. So I think that we're gonna see a rapid changes once students don't have these right at their beck and call. And I mean, I see it in my own children, right? And like when they don't have their phones, they're not zombies, they're kids.
Right.
And they're gonna start feeling, and we're gonna see it, I think, move on up through. I think a lot of things will change as the structure changes. And I would be really shocked if we didn't see the students actually actively be more empowered and maybe act out more. But that's what you want. I hate to say it, no, but you do, because this is the safe place to do it.
Right.
You don't want to get out into the workforce and your boss is like, get off your phone.
Right.
You know? And then there's real life repercussions. So I know this is completely off topic, but I think that we will see a different results, different programming. But I think the teachers will know. You know your students and your staff. Everybody knows the students. So I think that next few years are going to look a lot different. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in tonight.
And-
And being the last one to present, well, second to the last, because we have special ed.
So, although Kate in special ed doesn't have a school improvement plan, we did want to have her come up and present her year-end update, kind of along the same lines of what the principals did. So next on the agenda is Ms. Buck and her year-end update.
Thank you, everybody, for having me tonight. I'm excited to kind of share about what we've been doing in special education this year and will continue to do. So, just overview of we continue with that comprehensive continuum of special education and student support services from ages 3 all the way to 22 to ensure that students are receiving the individualized support while maintaining access to the least restrictive environment. The 25-26 school year started with updated names and descriptions for our district-wide sub-separate programs. If you remember, we came last year, Sarah and I, and presented those names and descriptions and shared them with the staff. We went on we went on a little show, and it's really, the purpose of that was to enhance the clarity, the consistency, and the understanding of the services available to students and families. Going over what our continuum is. Integrated preschool for students ages 3 to 5, inclusion services across all grade levels, specialized programs supporting students with social, emotional, language-based learning and intensive instructional needs, and a postgraduate transition program that helps students ages 18 to 22 develop those vocational, independent, and community participation skills. We continue to provide a wide range of related services: speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling, assistive technology, hearing and vision support. This year, the district strengthened its capacity to support students with dyslexia and other language-based learning disabilities through continuing professional development in Orton-Gillingham, multisensory reading instruction for our special educators, and we now have 7 educators trained in Orton-Gillingham methodologies, which is increasing our capacity to provide evidence-based reading interventions to students across the district. The department also focused on ensuring strong systems of support for students with disabilities who receive accommodations through Section 504 plans, including updated staff training on compliance and best practices. That was really well received by the school adjustment counselors. Throughout the year, the Office of Special Education and Student Support Services partnered closely with DESE's Office of Language Acquisition to ensure our programs, procedures, and practices align with the state requirements for English language learners. I am very pleased to report that the district will be in compliance with all DESE standards by the close of this school year. That was no easy task. Beyond academics, we remain committed to creating inclusive opportunities for all students. This year, Douglas launched its first unified basketball season, which was met with tremendous enthusiasm from the staff, the students, and families. It was really great to see. We were proud to host our 17th annual Special Olympics. The day was joyful celebration of our student athletes and brought together volunteers, family, staff, and community members in support of inclusion and achievement. We were really honored to welcome State Representative McKenna, members of the school committee, public safety leaders, and other community partners, along with special appearances by Smiley and Trax and Brewster. The event received overwhelmingly positive feedback from participants and families, and attendance exceeded previous years, making it a truly memorable day for our school community. Finally, I'd like to recognize the work of our Douglas CPAC, which hosted its very first Everyday Heroes Awards. This event celebrated the many educators, support staff, service providers, and community members whose dedication positively impacts the lives of students with disabilities. We were proud to honor 29 recipients this year for this exceptional dedication and support of our students. And finally, I'd like to thank our teachers, related service providers, paraprofessionals, families, and administrators, especially our current SPED coordinators, Mrs. Muller-Crone, Mrs. Cheeto, and our former coordinator, Mrs. Cozy, for their continued partnership in supporting our students. Together, we remain focused on ensuring every student has the opportunity to learn, grow, and succeed. Any questions?
I'll go first. Can I go first? So, I'll, I started kudos with the principals, but I just want to say Kate talked a lot about the culmination of all of the work. We got to go back to the beginning of the year of August of where we started. And structures weren't in place, policies weren't in place, procedures weren't in place, things weren't in place. So before you can build the house, you got to have the foundation. So thank you to Kate and her team, Sarah, her administrative assistants, Angela, who really spent a lot of time, probably starting back in May of last year, May, June, July, August, September, October, of putting those structures and supports in place so we could have those routines. What happens when a parent submits the paperwork to be testing? What happens when an IEP team meeting ends? So that's where it all started. So I know we didn't talk a lot about that, but I'd be remiss if we didn't go back to where it started, because it's been very refreshing to not have to talk about timelines, to not have to talk about meetings missed, to not have to talk about why this piece of paper wasn't sent out and that piece of paper not sent out. So.
Angry parents,
Well,
just to name a few.
And again, I understand it, but again, we have to go back to where, and I know we did a culmination of everything, but that's really where the work started back. So thank you to you and your team and everyone for that.
Thank you.
So I let it off, so now Beth, you can jump in.
I was gonna say the same thing, 'cause I
Okay.
remember talking to you in the hallway, and, we knew that you had some work to do. And I'm just, I know what this work is like, and you worked really, really hard. And so thank you for everything that you've done to bring Douglas back into the, what do we call it, the black?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It takes a team. I'm only as strong as the team I have beside me, so.
So I want to celebrate the Arthur Gillingham,
Yeah.
getting 7 more educators to go and get that training. That is like the foundation. And, my kiddo, is one of the dyslexia kids that benefited because we had Arthur Gillingham. And so having those fundamentals at such a young age, the younger we can do that, the more we can get trained. It pays huge dividends when it goes from the primary to the elementary school. Pays huge dividends. And so kudos to the staff.
And
'cause it's
consistently having OG in all 3 buildings.
Correct.
Because
Yes.
there was
That's-
a period of time where we had
One,
OG,
it
we
was
had
only in
Wilson,
primary.
we had homegrown, we had a combination of the two, and maybe even a third one thrown in. So that it's consistent now throughout the district, and that's huge too.
Right, and so, I just want to say kudos to the staff. Thank you so much for, putting that, because I think that is a key
Huge.
component for kids. It opens windows and doors for them, and, so that was my kudos, see?
You good? I'm good. Oh. So 29 people, we got to recognize that families and kids went above and beyond the call of duty in a district the size of ours.
Yes.
And some of those people were nominated multiple times by
Yes, they
multiple
were.
people. That doesn't include that amount amazing. Like, there's other districts that have been doing this program for years and don't have those numbers. So the fact that, like, our community sees and values the work that they're doing is so amazing. And I know, talking to the CPAC, they got many emails from staff who were crying and so excited to be recognized for the work that they do. Like, that's huge.
And to point out that these nominations came from families and students. It was nothing to do with staff nominations, anything. It was the families and the students really recognizing the work that these people have done, which just even more emphasizes the importance and how great that is.
And there was also kids that nominated teachers and staff that weren't district employees.
No, correct.
But were from our out-of-district.
We had
schools.
4.
Yep.
Yep.
And,
Which was awesome.
and those people have never been recognized, ever.
No, and the program actually came where they were from and said, we've never, in all the districts we've worked with, we work with many, we've never had this opportunity. This is amazing. They had their own photographer come. I mean, their director was there. They really, really were so appreciative. And it was just awesome to see. This is what it's about. And it was a great night for everyone to come together.
And Special Olympics. Those kids had the best shirts they've had in years. Because of the because of the advocacy of a lot of different people, but also because of like our booster programs and people that saw that all means all. Like,
yes.
Those kids deserve to have those shirts. And it was so awesome to walk around and watch the teachers and Kate like interact with the kids, and people are trying to talk to Kate. She's like, hold on, I'm going to do bubbles and dancing, because the kids were the center of the day. And like, that doesn't come on a data sheet.
Grandparents were like walking up and thanking me and the staff. It was so great to see, because they had an opportunity where they could see everybody out there belonging like a community and having fun and smiles, and it was great.
And we're not talking about timelines and compliance.
No, we're not.
Thank you.
And our PRS reports aren't either,
Thank you.
because they're non-existent. Not going with.
It's not an easy feat.
A huge credit to Carrie in the special education office, because she is our timeline. She keeps us on. She is amazing.
I
No.
know.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
All right. So obviously everyone loves data, so we can talk a little bit about data. So every time we present STAR data, I say this is one data point. Right, so we got to remember that when we look at that. The other thing, I will also be assuming and channeling my inner Mr. Bishop and Mr. O'Brien as I present middle school scores, and as I was reminded by some middle school teachers that this was probably the 8th or 9th assessment that middle school students took in a very short window of time. If you think about the 2 or 3 days of ELA, the math assessment, the science assessment, the panorama assessment for SEL, and STAR. Tough enough to get middle school kids, high school kids, elementary and early preschool, you can motivate them differently, but it's a lot of assessing at the end of the year to look at scores and get kids going. So we just want to come up and talk a little bit about where we started and where we ended, and some highlights. So I will start with Miss Cindy at the primary.
So some of this is a little repetitious because it was in my data in my school improvement plan, but preschool was only for the 4-year-olds that we administered this. Not only did we hit 97%, that was 33 students. We only had one other in the next category, which they call it on watch. And we had no one in intervention or urgent. So that was a huge highlight for us. You know, kudos to the teachers too, with their small group instructions and ISSPs. Even at that age, you can still find out the skill that they're weaker in, and you can still attack those skills. Kindergarten ELA, we went from 79% to 84%. We still had a few, you know, in the intervention and urgent intervention. We know who they are, we know why they're there. You know, there's reasons for all of them. And I still do that. I meet with the teachers individually. Where are we? One was a late entrance that came in from another district that was just a low student just to start from. So has made progress, just it's not going to be reflected here either. So we know who they are. And then the math, like I said, I'm not sure how that leveling worked out. We still made a lot of progress there. The math, it seems like the kids get so motivated with the ST math. It's such a nice supplement to our math program. The kids love it. They all have their 100% stars hanging on the wall proudly, you know, with their picture taken and things like that. So it really adds to our math program. The teachers are saying that when the kids get to certain topics, they're already knowledgeable because of the ST math, and they don't even know it. They don't even realize that they've already learned this skill. So again, we still have a few students in the lower category. The other thing about this, and we're looking at it as a district, the dates that we're testing. And so we do it 5 times just because we want to see those and be able to adjust as we go. Well, a couple of those, maybe the January and the November, they're being tested on, say, skills ahead of time. So in the fall, that's the beginning of the year. And then the next 2 hit a certain window, and they're really just being scored, say, on a higher level. So that's something that we kind of look at, and we can adjust next year how we do that too. So we'll be looking at that. Grade 1 for literacy, no one in the urgent intervention. So we didn't have any at the beginning, and we didn't have any at the end of the year. We had 8 students in intervention at the beginning, and we narrowed that down to 3. And again, we know exactly who they are and the reasons why. And some have made progress within that category. It just hasn't bumped them up to the next category. Grade 1 math, we're at 91%. Only 1 student in the urgent intervention. We started the year with 16 in the intervention and urgent, and we ended up with 3. So that's improvement. And then as far as highlights, even though we didn't make the 100%, I had several teachers that individually as a class, they hit 100%. So each time we test, I put it all in a binder, and we sit down and we look at, this is where you were, and you can see all green all the way across. So I tell them they're in the 100 club, just like the kids are. So we've had consistent growth. What we're going to continue to do, I think what we're doing is working. We're going to keep using the ISSPs and continue with the detail on that, kind of dig down into the skills, continue with the UDL strategies, the MTSS, using the DCAP, and just refresh. Sometimes you just need to say, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I could use an exit ticket, or I could do a choice board, or I could do whatever it is. So just to refresh that all the time with the teachers. Common planning time has been a huge success too, because they can brainstorm. They can talk to each other and say, what did you do for that child that was having trouble with that skill? Or, you know, how did you attack that? So they can talk to each other and brainstorm. And then meeting with the teachers individually, and then putting those CBMs, those are the curriculum-based measures. They're like a 1-minute hit. We haven't used those as consistently as I think we could, and they're very simple, you know, letter sounds or number naming, things like that. They're quick. Any questions?
You did a good job. Awesome job. Congratulations to the staff. Again, I think it's a data point that we utilize, but, you know, overarching, it's just a data point, right?
Right.
But I appreciate everybody's hard work this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Haynes?
I just highlighted some points that I, just kind of going through the data and had submitted to Dr. Vieira, so I'll just go through some of these things and then just see if there are any questions. In terms of highlights, first of all, Grade 3, they significantly reduced the percentage of students not meeting performance levels. They cut it in half, went from 14 to 7%. So that was an impressive jump. Grade 4, they also, in math, they showed, as far as the number of students meeting expectation, the percentage of students meeting, it increased from 39 at the beginning of the year to 51 at the end of the year. So it was one of the strongest gains across the content areas. Grade 5, dramatically reduced students not meeting their expectations. Students in the not meeting category decreased from 15 to just 4%. So that was like, it's nice taking those students out of that lower level and you know what I mean? You're not just looking at increases what's at the top, but it's sort of, redistributing from the lower levels and having that sort of upward trend. And so we definitely saw these, in those 3 examples, demonstrate that. And so, there's really just a meaningful growth for our highest needs math learners. And then in terms of an area of growth that I just want to mention, it's like interesting sometimes when you look at data and then all of a sudden it asks a question, right? Or creates a question in your mind. One thing that I noticed is that there was the growth from the middle of the year to the end of the year didn't really match the growth that I saw from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year, right? So an example is like with grade 2, who their scores were really high, but their benchmark, their at or above benchmark went from 81 up to 92, and then it went down to 83. So at the end of the year, so basically, for end of year, they demonstrated, an increase in performance, but it wasn't sustained towards the end. So that appears to be, multiple grade levels, the middle of the year to the end of the year. So that's something that, we'll, as a team, we'll take a look at and, just see what might be the reason for that and see if we can address that. But it was definitely, as I looked through all the data, that was something that kind of jumped out and, let's figure out what that is. So anyways, but all in all, again, pleased with the results. So are there any questions?
And I'm so sorry if you just addressed this, because I was like so laser focused to see if I was reading this right, but it looks like across the board, am I reading this right? Every grade, except for early literacy for grade 2, it looks like every grade in exceeding went down significantly by the end of the year. Do we think the kids are just like all done with these tests by the end of the year? Like, how did we have that big of a drop?
Trust me, that could be like, that's like that we've already talked about. That's already, you know what I mean? It is. It's like there's so much of it. They're just at the, they're just done with MCAS. It's you're getting those first nice. It's just, we had a kid come in and take it in the amount of time. It's just like some of them just whiz through it. It's click, click, click. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're doing so many assessments, and it's definitely worth the conversation with how we approach the testing. You know what I mean? Because then all of a sudden, it's like all of a sudden the end of the year is here, and it's like, oh, we got to get it done, right? And so. And some of that is coaching the kids through that and stuff like that. And I don't think that one thing I love about the STARS is that they are pretty quick snapshots. They're not very labor intensive, unlike MCAS, which can be grueling for the kids and the families who are like getting the kids fed and to bed early and all that, get them to school on time. But still, there's just a lot of it. So that could definitely be a factor. And then, maybe what we do is maybe we spread it out a little differently. Maybe we do it like well enough ahead of MCAS. Let's just say, right, not so far away ahead that you're no longer towards the end of the year, but give it a little bit of time. And so then we might get a more accurate sense of where the kids are at that point. So that could be it. But yes.
This is 5 times a year for elementary too, right? 5?
We do it at the beginning, the middle, and then it's optional in the spring, right?
Okay.
And so basically and then at the end of the year. So again, I don't mind the STAR testing. It's not like we don't have to go into lockdown mode or whatnot. It's actually a pretty quick, effective assessment. I like it, so I'm not opposed to it. But to doing it as often as we do, I think it's helpful information. But the one at the end of the year, that could be
Is it just because it's the end of the year and all these kids are like, stop putting tests in front of me, or is there something happening that our students that were excelling I don't know.
It
where
begs the question,
drop-off is. Yeah.
definitely begs the question, right? So maybe if we rearrange kind of the assessments and see if this, next year is if this happens again, then that's
Yeah.
there'll have to be a follow-up to that, but,
It will be interesting to see what the STAR data is from the beginning of the year, using it from the end of year data, right? And to see if
Yeah,
they're
to
just
see,
burnt,
we'll have to look at the grade up.
if they're burnt out,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
probably what it is. Again, it's just a snapshot of where they were that day and where they
but again, that's why the growth, I value that, because you really see what the kids are doing when compared to peers nationwide at their performance levels, and that's why that was sort of the one that we really focused on at the beginning of the year. But you can look at these and be like, right?
I
Like
know, I'm like.
I understand that. I look at them a lot, and I feel I also feel the joy and the pain, right?
Well, but it's interesting that it's across all the grades.
Yeah.
That makes me think, do you know what I mean? That it's not something happening in one spot here. It's something with the kids by the end of the year, just like, I'm not looking at another test here.
I definitely looking at the testing calendar is it's definitely something that, that we should consider. But again, I'm not opposed to how often we do it, but maybe like how we do it, how we distribute the actual, the dates, is something to consider.
Thank you so much
Okay,
for
thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. And again, thank you to the middle school staff who helped put this
Yes.
together and send me some notes for it. So starting with sixth grade ELA, just really want to highlight for not meeting from beginning of the year to end of the year. We went from 17 students to 6 students. So we saw that decrease in the amount of students not meeting expectations. And Robin in the sixth grade did a great job moving those at-risk kids further along the continuum. For sixth grade math, we had 2 students at the end of the year not meeting expectations, and it just sent me a note that said out of the 2 students, they missed by 1 question. So they were one question away from being in that next level. And then if you look at the sixth grade math as a whole, they went up in average from beginning of the year to end of the year of 30 points for a scaled score. So she saw the increase of kids, although there wasn't a lot of growth, for instance, from one group to another group, within the groups, kids grew. So that was Jess Finley's assessment. If you go to 7th grade ELA, we saw kids at that partially meeting and not meeting expectation go from 41 students at the beginning of the year to 34 students at the end of the year, a difference of 7 students. Doing some quick rough math, you're looking at about 80, 85, 90 kids in the class. So when you say 7, it doesn't look like that much, but you're almost looking at 10% movement, okay? Which was amazing. 7th grade math is a lot to celebrate. So you look at students in that partially meeting and not meeting expectations at the beginning of the year to end of the year, we went from 32 to 27. So a difference of 5 students. And then if you look at the beginning of the year, the end of the year, we went from 46 students in that meeting and exceeding group to 60 students. So we saw that growth in math in the 7th grade. Going on to 8th grade ELA, and we have in that partially meeting and not meeting group, we went from 45 at the beginning of the year to 40 at the end of the year. So again, moving those kids along the continuum. And for 8th grade math, we went from 11 kids not meeting expectations to 5 students not meeting expectations. So we saw that drop of 6 students. See similar trends at the middle school, to your point about that exceeding where we didn't see the growth. I can't answer the question as to why.
I know, I would just encourage you guys to really look at the calendar and see if they're just tested out.
So part of it is they're tested out. So as Cindy was pointing out the window, one thing that happened this year when we did the November testing for students, I'm going to get this wrong because it's late at night. We did the end of the year November testing at the beginning of the winter session. So kids took that benchmark for what should have been a culmination of September to November, but they actually took the test for the starting portion of December through March. So they were getting asked questions on standards that they hadn't even been taught yet. So that's the first thing. And again, this is my, 32nd, 33rd year in education. April vacation is one benchmark for kids. You get through April vacation, there's a different vibe in schools. You get through Memorial Day weekend, there's a different vibe in schools. At the high school, after graduation, it's a different vibe in schools. For a lot of these students, and we'll see when Rob presents his high school data, it's a lot of tests. We start that MCAS testing in, is it end of March, beginning of April? End of March. So you got MCAS in March, MCAS in April, MCAS in May, and we just finished the science, correct? This week. So it's a lot of assessing. Throw in Panorama but at the high school level, throw in your AP testing. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And when kids know it doesn't count, it's tricky.
Yes,
So,
done.
again, you can motivate in September, October, November. You get the buy-in, everyone's on the good behavior, everyone wants to impress teachers, but then it happens. But what we can look at with STAR is look to see how many, is dive into the data to see, did kids answer all the questions? Where were they? So we could do a little bit dive to see, is this just test fatigue or is it something else? So I made a note, we'll look into that.
Did they answer the questions in 3 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, were they done? in
How
10
long did,
Yeah.
can we see how long they spent on doing the assessments, Cindy? Okay, so, again, if you look to see that, we went from an average of 27 minutes of students taking tests to 14.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
that,
I know you guys like the 5 times a year because I like what you said that you can adjust, but at the same time, by the end of the year, I'm looking at these numbers and I'm like, I don't know that this tells me anything. Although I do, and I'm saying all this because I'm the one who asked for the STAR data, and this is why I kind of wanted to see it. But I think if nothing else, at least you all can see all of the not meeting and partially meeting. There was definitely significant movement, so that's helpful. But yeah, I would love to see our exceeding students take this a little
Continue
more
to grow, correct.
seriously. Thank you for all of this.
Thank
It's
you.
helpful.
and Mr. Ringget at the high school.
I feel as though I'm going to be a little repetitive to some of the things that may have just been said. I will say this, high school completed 4 STAR assessments this year, September, November, March-ish, and we skipped March-ish, I think it was. So it was like September, November, January, and end of April, beginning of May. So some of the highlights from our students was that student growth reports were, for both subject matters, over 50%, 54% for math, and 59% for ELA. So our student growth numbers over that 50% mark is kind of what we look for, almost into that 60%. Consider it a bell curve, if you will, where 50% is that middle piece, and you just want to be on that plus side of it. Some good news, grade 9 students. Some people like to look at the average or the mean. I'm a median person. That's how I used to look at the grades when I was a math teacher, is I was a median person. So the median for math and student growth for grade 9 was at 60%. So that was good to see. For grade 12, it was at 58%, which again, was good to see considering the AP Calculus and AP Statistics students. I allowed them to just focus on their AP exams and not take the end of the year STAR assessment. And then grade 10 ELA probably was our biggest mover, if you will. Grade 10 ELA had a student growth percentage of 66%. Additionally, their students who were partially meeting or not meeting originally was about 58% of the population, and at the end it was down to 38%. So whatever happened there, happened there. Ms. Petrelli did a phenomenal job. Mrs. Woodford did a phenomenal job, so in motivating their students in various ways. So those are a lot of our highlights. Again, grade 9 ELA, student growth percentage 60%. Like, there's a lot of these like 55, 58, 60% student growth percentages, which is always what we're looking for. Again, grade 11, grade 12, the sample size is different from the end of the year as the beginning of the year because I did exempt those AP students as that exam window that we had was right smack dab through AP exams. And the AP teachers begged me, and I said, "You're right, you're right." So I made that decision so they wouldn't have to worry about that too much. Areas of growth. A couple of pieces here and there that kind of pop out. Grade 10 students in math. We could see some better growth there. That's something that we're going to dive into a little bit more this summer to just kind of see where those points of emphasis are. I usually spend some of July here, and during those months I do some of my favorite things, which is data analysis and sitting there doing some math problems with the data that we have. So we're going to look into that a little bit more closely this summer, just kind of fine tune exactly what we should be looking at, what we're missing, what are we not focusing on. When we looked at who was scoring where, we identified that our honor students are doing really well, and maybe our college prep students aren't. So we need to check again to see if that's motivational, which I think part of it will be. I don't think there's any one singular thing that's going to tie this one down, and the other is practice. So we'll have to kind of look at where we are with that. And again, looking at the times, looking at other structures, and see where we're lacking. And then the other part, and this is a bit nitpicky because the ELA department always soars in so many different ways, so it's going to be a little nitpicky, but they're consistently hovering around that 40% of students not in that meeting or exceeding range. It's always like a 60-40 split of 60% meeting and exceeding, 40% not. And I know how good they are, so maybe push them a little bit and see if we can squeeze out, a few more percentage points there. Contrary to some of that, though, away from STAR, some of the data points we received in other areas, overall our SAT scores on average have been up every year for the last couple of years. So, and that goes for both math and ELA. So it's not just one subject matter that's carrying us in that. So it's always good to see. So there's a balance there somewhere.
It's just a data point.
100%. And I know I'm the one who requested it, just as like an end of year, just wanted to like take a temperature, not be shocked by whatever comes back with MCAS next year when we look at it. And but it's just helpful to get a sense of where the school's kind of ended. So thank you.
Not a problem.
So I would make a recommendation, and this is just Heather, I really would like to have end-of-year data, like we take this test and run it in June, give the testing in June, because we're doing it, sometime in April?
So we've done it different ways. So there's a hint of a complication. A lot of teachers use the STAR data as their goals. They have to have their goals into principals contractually by May. Non-PTS by early. So if the teachers are using it as their goals, they don't have the data to submit to principals if we do the testing too late. So we've been playing with that piece of it because a lot of teachers like to use the STAR data as one of their goals, but they can't submit their goals, which is the timeline for the contract, so.
Yeah, I mean, I just think we're taking it too soon.
Correct.
And they haven't been taught it, so it's no reason why we're seeing the results. Or do we just say, we're not going to use end-of-year data? I understand for the teachers, but don't take this the wrong way, but it's really no value, right?
Right.
And so that's what I'm getting at is we're taking it too soon. Yes, I want to hit, so maybe use like I said, I know contractually, if the teachers are trying to use it, like, I'm not trying to rock the boat, but I think we're doing it too early.
If we do it at 6 weeks ahead of time, it is,
And that's why we're getting the results we get, right?
Could be
And
too.
so, and to your point, right, if our SAT scores, like, there's gotta be some give and take.
so we can
like-
look at that and play with that.
And maybe at summer retreat, we look at this a little bit more, because I just think that it's a data point. And I get that the teachers want their data point, and if they still wanted to use it as their data point for their classrooms, but give the opportunity versus, that's just how there's 2 cents. And I'm just one person on this board, but.
And it's one of the reasons, and again, you asked for it, which is one of the reasons why this year I kind of made the subconscious, conscious decision not to report out so much on the STAR data. It's a valid point, but I knew some of this is what, our 3rd or 4th year doing it? 4th year. We've learned from some of the hiccups from it. We've always did the five testing dates. And feedback that we got from staff about 2-3 years ago was like, it takes a day or two, or at least a day or a period, to prep kids for, or to administer the test, depending on how you do it. And that's smack dab in crunch time for MCAS. So you're taking away a half a day, a half a period of prep time for MCAS to give an assessment that doesn't count, where MCAS counts. So can we not do the March assessment? I said, of course. So we're learning as we still go through this. That's a good point.
In that point, I feel for the teachers who I feel like what you're telling me is all they're doing is prepping these kids to take a test, when at the end of the day, we just want to know, do you know what 2 + 2 is? Like, I feel like we're doing so much assessment, and I don't know that it's actually giving us what we need to make a determination. It really is, and I feel like we're actually obstructing these teachers from getting time to actually teach the kids when they are just having to prep them for tests.
The benchmark assessment during the course of the year is important. I mean, as I forget what the name and the number of the law is, but we have to do a pre-screener for literacy for grades 2 through 5 or 6, and we use a STAR assessment as our screener. We're mandated by law to do this. So we have to give that screener at the early elementary grades. It also provides a good additional data throughout the year for teachers. You know, everyone tests and assesses differently. It gives them great data. The end of the year, people are tired. I've been in the halls, they're busy. You walk through, I am the middle school principal, so I'll look at me. I was looking for the middle school principal, but you look at the activities going on these last 2.5 weeks of school for kids. They're excited, they're doing stuff, there's field days. 8th grade has graduation on the 17th, but they're doing graduation rehearsal the 2-3 days ahead of time. So the end of the year is always difficult to do the assessments. You look as a former high school person, you have seniors who, after March 1, when they know where they're going, that's a tough to keep them motivated. And then there's all the assessments, there's the AP, but we continue to tweak and figure out how best to assess the kids, but how best to use the data too.
It'd be interesting to look at how other districts, how often they're administering their benchmark testing.
Yeah.
And like kind of compare, because are we taking a whole week every year prepping kids for assessments? And I'm just being very broad, but like what you said, like I think it might be
worth
sense
to look at.
some of the other.
But if the teachers still want to do it, right, because that's part of their curriculum, they have it built, like, give the flexibility if that's how they do their benchmarks, right? Does it make sense, right? And so.
We'll look at it. Which brings us to the next piece. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. So one thing we did last year at our summer retreat was we put together value and beliefs, school committee values and belief systems, statements. And what I liked about that was we worked with administrators and staff and put together a value and belief statements. My goals were derived from them. School improvement plans were made up from them. A lot of principal and staff goals were made from them. So we have that horizontal full alignment. Before I dive into this, and again, I'm going to be really quick, like a minute and a half on these, because it's repetitious. When I presented my goals, they were based off of this. School improvement plans were based off of this. So you've already seen a lot of this information. But I just want to, again, close the loop. I will post this on the website for the community to see, to know that we had the beginning and the end. But we had scheduled July 27th as our school committee retreat. I think there's a conflict that day. So I don't know if we want to look at now at rescheduling that and come up with dates, or if we want to do that at another time.
I know I will. I have a work commitment. I will not be here at all. I can't even participate. I will be at an event the entire day. So
Do I need to reschedule?
Hmm?
Do I need to reschedule?
I would like to reschedule, but I just know if you want to do it, you can do it, but I will not be able to participate at all. I'm in another state.
I'll allow it.
Do we look at the following week?
Yeah?
The week of August 3rd.
The 3rd would be great.
It's good over here.
I'm not here.
No.
I'll be back on the 6th.
I can't do the 6th. My niece is getting married.
So you can't do the 7th either.
Well, I could do the 6th in the morning.
What about the week of the 20th of July?
I'm gone.
13th? Week of the 13th?
Of August?
July.
I can do July 13th.
Can we move it towards the end of that week?
I can't do that. That week I can't do. That's my conference week.
Okay.
So we're back to the week of the 3rd of,
What, you're not back until the 6th?
Right.
The following week?
the 10th?
What about the last week in June?
That's what I was kind of thinking too.
I'll be joining you via Disney.
I was gonna say, if we can avoid June is a nightmare.
So are we at the week of the 10th of August?
Yeah.
July 6th, the week of July 6th. Nah.
I'm gone July 6th. I also go back to work August 10th. I mean, I could take a day.
Can we, Beth's not back on the 5th.
That's like
I
my
might be
admin
able to be.
retreat at my school. Is that whole week?
Heather, are you gone the whole week of the 27th, that entire week?
Of what month?
Sorry, I'm sorry. Of July.
The 1st.
No, July is, I thought you were talking June. July, I'm here.
No, but July
I'm gone that entire week.
You are gone, okay.
I'm out of state.
Okay.
So we'll go old school. August 10th.
No.
All right, August 11th.
Maybe.
But you said you're back to school, right?
After
me,
that,
yeah.
I might be able to do August 10th or 11th. Let me double check one other thing.
I'd like to not be here.
On either one of those 2 days?
Yeah, like I take like 3 days off the whole summer. And like
those are 3 days?
Those are a couple of them, like those 2 days, like a couple of long weekends. It's July and that weekend in August.
No, we're not doing that. Next.
How about the 13th? Thursday, the 13th.
It's up to Becky because she's gonna be working. Like, how early do you
Tentative?
work?
I mean, it's more important that Heather be here. So we could say yes, and if I'm not there, you're the chair.
What if we did August 5th? I'll come home early.
No, don't come home early. What?
Where are you gonna be? Do you wanna come home early?
I don't even know. We haven't even booked anything. I just booked PTO and, because otherwise I don't get it.
Okay.
So can we do August 5th?
I mean, I can.
I can do anything, as long as it's not, yes, I can do the 5th.
I can do the 5th.
Can you do the 5th?
I know the 5th.
Let's do the 5th. Just don't tell my family.
I can do August 5th.
August 5th.
I can do August 5th.
What time?
Because we have, I have to read.
Can you do 9, please?
That would be wonderful. Yes, we could do 9.
Okay,
Ooh, that has been thrilling to watch. This is exciting stuff.
Right. There's no easy way to do it.
We try to book in advance, but then work gets in the way,
Well,
right?
wait until my work gets in the way, but if it does,
I
it
know.
does.
So again, what were we talking about with this value and belief? We had 6 focus areas. No, this is not the right one. Student agency and career readiness, and professional development and curriculum alignment. And I think over the past month, we've talked ad nauseum about how we've done all of those things in the district. The second bucket was social emotional well-being, and again, trauma-informed practices, SEL and student agency, reflective practice and staff growth, and consistent expectations. So again, those were the buckets that we looked under, and again, over the past month, we've talked a lot about how we have done those things and put those things in place. Third bucket was professional culture, and the action steps were around collaboration and reflective practice, family and community engagement, accountability and high expectations, and staff growth through targeted professional development. If I'm counting correctly, our fourth bucket is family and community engagement, the streamlined communication, expanded family engagement and volunteerism, and digital literacy and parent education. So one thing we'll be working on this summer is using this as a foundation, and what do we add, what do we tweak, what do we change, and then continuing on that work just to have that vertical alignment. Under operational excellence, again, we've given shout-outs to a lot of people. Now I'm going to do a little shout-out here to Ms. Landry. One of the focus points was centralizing policies and procedures, working on our HR infrastructure and onboarding, and modernizing our communication systems. And again, she's done a lot of work in those areas. Again, we started from the foundation up. You guys now all have laptops. We're not printing out papers. We're trying to move to a lot of things online. So again, trying to make it easier for staff to assess, to access things. And the last piece, again, was the fiscal responsibility and the transparency and the accountability. We did a lot of presenting Q1, Q2, Q3 reports, sustaining a balanced budget. We did that. The advocating for additional funding, although I wish we were advocating for additional funding to add staff. This year we advocated for additional funding and we received it to not have to reduce additional staff. And then expanding extracurricular opportunities, we were able to do that throughout the year, and you just saw four actually examples of that earlier on with Jared and Jack presenting and adding those positions. So that was the foundation. Again, we've talked about this forever, but I wanted, again, to close that loop and present to you and the community that work that we did in July wasn't just a 4-hour meeting that we had and it sat on a shelf. We actually did stuff along the way, and that was the foundation of my evaluation and my goals, which we'll talk about momentarily, and what the principals and the directors all did, and a lot of the teachers did to help this come to life. So looking forward to the 5th, 6th, 4th, whatever date you're landing on in August, to relook at this and then build upon.
So we need to open up our calendars again. We have a conflict. So what's the latest time you can be? So the 5th, can people do later in the afternoon/evening? I'll pay for dinner.
Drinks?
Drinks?
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Just tell us what time.
I can do later. 2:45, I can be back.
So Saturday, 3 o'clock?
3 p.m.
3:30?
I mean, I'm kind of used to not having time for anything, so 3:30 's great.
3:30 would be
3:30.
wonderful.
3:30.
My boss thanks you.
No, it's important for all of us to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You're moving because of my schedule, so.
We're a team.
that'll be discussion for next school committee meeting. Come with your ideas.
Okay, all right, look at
Happy
that.
to host, we can just have it at my house.
Well, then we'll get crazy.
Charcuterie.
So Will,
Fancy.
we're getting punchy now, at 8:30. So it is set for the 5th at 3:30.
Yes.
5th at 3:30. We've got-
TBD the place. We're gonna-
TBD the place, but we do, because it is a public meeting, we do have to make sure that it's at least in an establishment which the public has access to, because it is an official school
Yep.
committee meeting. So that might put a hindrance on what we mentioned as an activity, but after the school committee's over, we can do different things. But, so there's that. And then the last part of my report is the culmination of my evaluation. And again, for people who are watching at home, my evaluation is the only one that's done in open forum in a public setting. Everyone else is done, behind closed doors, but the superintendent has their evaluation done in a public forum and reported out in a public forum. So with that said, I'll turn it over to the chair.
So thank you so much. So we did something a little bit different than we've done in prior years since I've been school committee chair. We waited till after election, and I was lucky enough to be reelected, but I think it gave us a little bit more time to get some insight that we really did need to do this evaluation properly. I would say that going forth, I know that we're all gonna be up for reelection. If we could keep with this cycle, that you would come back, and I would still make sure that your input would be put in here, and that you would sit out there in the audience if you're not reelected, just to come in and have your viewpoint valued, because the new person coming on is gonna have no clue, right? So, we're not rushing it. We're getting the data that we need to get to do what we're supposed to do, right? As my colleague to my left has said, this is the oldest part in Massachusetts, the school committee. This is one of the things that we get to do in an open format. So, without further ado, our professional practice goal, you exceeded that. The student learning goal, you exceeded that. And the district improvement goal, you exceeded that. That's the first part of our assessment. That's step one, is where we evaluate all the data points that we get at throughout the year. And then step two, it goes back to when we start the summer retreat, we put together what we think the district goals are going to be, and we supply that to Dr. Vera. Dr. Vera incorporates that with the administrative staff and within the school, and it just builds on that, where everybody gets the buy-in and what our goals are gonna be for the year that we set the tone for, right? So in instructional leadership, again, this is an exemplary. The management of operations was an exemplary. There are two areas here where we had some disagreement on the ratings, but overall, it's exemplary, and I'll go further into that as we dive through. It's standard 2 and standard 4 professional culture. We had exemplary, but there was some difference of opinions. Family and community engagement was exemplary too as well. So overall, Dr. Vera's total end of cycle for our 2025-2026 is exemplary in all 4 areas. And what I do is I take all of the input that the school committee members provide to me, and I put together all the different data points, and then I do a nice little brief. And so this is just a combination of everybody's viewpoints presented in here. Dr. Vera has demonstrated exemplary leadership throughout the 2025-2026 school year, exceeding expectations across 4 evaluation standards and district improvement goals. While the evidence presented in his self-assessments highlights significant accomplishments and strategic progress, the committee has recognized a broader experience and outcomes observed throughout the year. Dr. Vera's diligently and successful effort were instrumental in providing full and robust education for the Douglas Public Schools. Navigating substantial financial hurdles and addressing underlying culture challenges remain areas that we want you to continue focusing on. But his overall impact has fostered a successful, growth-oriented culture. Committee members agree he meets and, in several areas, exceeds expectations, doing a very good job leading the district. Moving forward, continue focus on student engagement and proactive planning around the impact of budget reductions will be essential to ensure students continue to have access to robust opportunities. And now I'll do a deeper dive into each one of the areas that we felt were critical for you. And that is the performance goals that we're going to go through. This will be posted online for everybody at home to follow through. You can actually see. And the performance instructional leadership was instruction. He got, Dr. Vera got an exemplary there. And so here are the highlights for that. Dr. Vera has established and maintained exceptionally high expectations for instructional quality, making this an area of a significant personal strength. His leadership has ensured instructional consistency and improved student outcomes. He has successfully utilized data to identify areas of improvement and collaborate with administrators to develop target goals, driving visible progress in student achievement this year. And some of the highlights that were mentioned that the school committee members pointed out were the 100% curriculum map alignment, the data-informed instruction, the SEL integrations for social emotional learning, the professional development was exceeded, and there was just as different examples throughout that people can read up on if they choose to, but this is where he got exemplary. The next one is in the superintendent's performance rating for standard number 2, which is management of operations. This was a mixed bag of our viewpoint, but overall he did get an exemplary rating in here. Dr. Vera has a meaningful progress in creating safe, supportive, and inclusive learning environments through strong operational leadership, though this standard is balanced by severe operational and financial challenges faced this year, which we did. This was mixed community feedback. The trauma-informed and safe environments, the district has exceeded annual training expectations with extensive professional development and trauma-informed practices and de-escalation strategy, MPY, Safe Care, Lifeline Trauma Care, and the regulated classroom, just to name a few. The operational readiness was further enhanced through successful reunification drills, which we do thank the St. Denis Church for allowing us to utilize their facilities. Consistent behavioral expectations, clear and consistent behavioral expectations have been implemented district-wide, reinforced with CPT, staff meetings, and collaboration with the school resource officers, and a formal PBS system is now in development to further strengthen this framework. Streamlined is clear communication. The adoption of the ThrillShare as a unified communication platform was a major success. Yes, it was. Ensuring families receive timely and accessible information regarding safety and operation standards via text, email, and social media. The cause of concern really has been in the budget management and special education concerns. Committee members have noticed significant concerns regarding the budget challenges that emerged at the beginning of the school year, particularly related to the oversight and management within special education. Acknowledging the substantial budget deficits that ultimately resulted in staffing reduction and impacted both employees and the community. It is clear this is an area where corrective action was necessary. However, the committee members have also recognized that Dr. Vera acted promptly to address these issues, implemented changes in leadership, and worked thoroughly to handle a difficult situation by communicating openly with the school committee and keeping students' best interest in mind. The next one is the family community engagement, standard number 3. Again, he got exemplary here. Dr. Vera successfully strengthened partnerships between family, schools, and the broader community through a focus of communication, engagement, and education. Some of the highlights were in here were authentic engagement, parent education, and community partnerships that we did. And last but not least is standard number 4, which is our professional culture. Its commitment to high standards, where he scored another exemplary. Dr. Vera has worked to cultivate a professional culture of collaboration, accountability through the committee, though the committee recognized the work remains to be done to unify the district's culture. Collaboration exceeds expectation. Educators regularly participate in collaborative sessions, CPT, faculty meeting, SST, and AMT, that far exceed the 4-session minimum. These meetings are purposely structured around instructional improvement and data analysis. Distributed leadership. He has successfully empowered principals and other administrators to lead data discussions, instructional improvement efforts within the schools, and a model which builds internal capability and reinforces collective ownership of district goals. Accountability systems. Robust accountability systems are now in place. Updated handbooks, SMART goal alignments, and consistent with the rubric-based evaluation framework provide transparency and ensure professional growth is directly connected to measurable student outcomes. And last but not least is the cultural challenges and trust. The retreat over the summer, along with feedback from teachers and staff during the school committee meetings, provided valuable insight into staff perceptions. The committee appreciates Dr. Vera's willingness to create opportunities for staff voices to be heard and his efforts to address some of those raised concerns. However, underlying challenges within the district's culture remain. While some issues were addressed, others appeared unresolved from the perspective of staff members. Continued improvement is needed in strengthening trust, communication, and approachability across the district. And that is the end of my evaluation. All the school committee members have already signed it. We just need Dr. Vera to sign. And then this should be posted on the website. But I appreciate, ladies, you all taking the time to get the input into me. It was invaluable for us to put this together. It's a combination of all of our efforts from this past year. So with that, I pass that over to Dr. Vera.
And thank you for aggregating it. It's no easy feat.
I just want to make sure everybody's voice is heard, and it's a combination of all of our different viewpoints as we do this, because it is an invaluable mechanism that we use. It's how we grade ourselves, right? And it's the baseline for what we do for next year, and where we are going from the district. So I appreciate it.
And I just want to say thank you. I've said this 1,000 times. I'm blessed to have the committee that I have. And I think we saw a lot of it where we're all safe and comfortable in creating goals and doing things that might push us, knowing that if we don't reach them, it's not going to impact us negatively. And that's part of the culture that we've all created collectively for it. Kate said it, we're only as good as the team around us, and that's the same for all of us. So thank you to the principals, the directors, the staff, the paraprofessionals, the cafeteria workers, everyone who works together so that kids get what they need. And you know, I'm humbled, and I feel privileged to work in such a great district and with such incredible people. So thank you so much for this. The work's never done. If it was, it'd be easy, right? And I don't know what's going to happen next year. You know, when we were doing this evaluation this time last year, we knew there were going to be some financial challenges. We didn't think they'd be at the level they were at. You talk about money, oil, which Diana's going to talk about. The price of oil went up. We did not see that coming last year at this point. So we always attack and address what comes at us head on, and we'll continue to do that. And I'm looking forward to finishing up the 25-26 school year. I think everyone needs a couple of weeks away to recharge, refresh, regroup, whatever other words I can come up with. And then I look forward to the 5th at 3:30 to starting the process again next year of building our goals. So thank you so much for this. I am humbled and blessed.
Thank you.
And after 2.5 hours, that is the end.
Oh, that's all?
That's it.
All right, we're on the home run, ladies. All right, school committee and subcommittee report.
Accounts payable. Okay, on 514 and 515, I approve the following 3 warrants, 45 meals 26, 45 SCHL 26, and 45 SCH 26, in the grand total amount of $242,524.38.
And nothing out of the ordinary?
Nothing out of the ordinary. Thank you. A little tired.
No worries.
Missed a step.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda, the May 20th, 2026 meeting minutes.
I move to approve May 20th meeting minutes.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by Meg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Awesome. Next is the 2026-2027 graduation date change.
I know we just finished graduation. I don't even think the ink on the diploma is completely dry, but we're going to ask a request for next year and turn it over to Mr. Ringat.
Thank you for having me one more time. So Douglas High School typically holds its graduation ceremony on the Friday after Memorial Day. For the 26-27 school year, our graduation date is currently scheduled for June 4th, 2027. And I am requesting a consideration of holding graduation on Thursday, June 3rd, 2027. Due to the fact that June 4th happens to be the same day as my oldest child's high school graduation. I understand that this is a very personal request. I do it so I can fulfill my commitments here as the principal and, of course, as a parent. State laws do dictate that seniors have up until 12 days before the originally scheduled last day of school. If we were to make this change, we would still be within that time frame. Should things fall in my favor.
Ready?
I move to approve the date change of the Douglas, oh, sorry, did anyone have questions? Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
does
just
anybody have
rolling
any
here.
I'm here for it.
Okay. Move to approve the date change of the Douglas High School graduation on the 2026-2027 school calendar from Friday, June 4th, 2027 to Thursday, June 3rd, 2020, Thursday, June 3rd, 2027.
Motion made by Meg and seconded by?
Becky.
Second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Go have a wonderful night.
Congratulations,
Thank you
enjoy that senior year
so much.
with
I
your
truly appreciate this.
As, just as a point, since 1746, graduation has always been on that Friday. Can we just make sure that you advertise, push that out, because we know that graduation is always a certain date, so let's just start pushing that information out now.
Book pins now.
I am glad that
Save
we're
the
able to do
date.
this tonight because Celebration Graduation, which is the parents group that holds kind of like the senior pins night and things like that, they're supposed to be meeting with the next group starting on June 8th. So that way we can have that conversation at the very first meeting.
Perfect.
I think save the dates with all the week building up for the seniors. I think that's gonna be your, at open house, but
Everything.
everything, all the packets.
Make it a saying. Like, let's get it viral. Like, who graduates on a Thursday? Like, I think this could be a thing. Well, you
I don't know if I want to go viral.
South Central Mass. You want to go viral.
My district.
South
Stop it.
Central Mass.
Yes,
Right.
South Central Mass.
Thank you.
South Central Mass. So, but thank you, I appreciate it. Really do.
Absolutely.
Grilling Thursday.
All right. The next is the 2027 school committee meeting schedule.
It'll need to be revised.
The only thing we have to change
Thank
is
you
the
all for
July.
coming in.
Thank
Thank you
you.
again.
Thank you for staying.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Drive safe.
The only thing we have to change is that first one from
Yep.
from July 27th to August
5th.
5th, not at 7
At
a.m.
3:30.
to 3:30 p.m., not 7 a.m.
In
Did we
fairness-
already put some of these as Zoom, or we just do that when it comes?
We'll do it as a
Okay.
We'll do that as it comes.
Okay.
In
I know,
all
how s-
fairness, there's
like
a
the 16th is
likelihood we
Zoom.
need a July meeting. I need, in likelihood, we'll need a July, it can be a Zoom. I will very likely need approval for year-end,
Okay.
Yeah.
reclassifications and transfers. A Zoom would be appropriate as long as we're able to have a vote.
Yeah,
That's
just
fine.
a quorum. Three is all you
Okay.
need. So we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
So if nobody has any issues with the dates presented, I'd be looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion made and approved, made by Beth, second by?
Becky.
Second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Awesome.
Those eyes are in unison now.
Yeah.
Hi.
We're,
All right, and this is the third and final reading. I know we've gone through it already twice. The committee's had the opportunity to look at all the changes to the policies. If there aren't any questions on those policies, just be looking for a motion to approve. If you could just read the updated ones, that would be fantastic.
Not it.
Oh, I'll do it. I make a motion to approve the policy manual updates, section B, for the following updated policies. Is that right?
Yes.
BB, do I have to read the BB?
No,
School-
just
okay.
read, you can just read the letters.
BB, comma, BBA, comma, BBA/BBB, comma, BDF, comma, BDFA, comma, BDFA-E, comma, BDG, comma, BEC, comma, BEDA, comma, BEDH, comma, BHE, comma, BID.
Did you do improv?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Julia, seconded by Beth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Awesome. Moving on to the business and operations report, please.
Thank you. Long night. Hopefully these are good. We got a couple good things in here that we would like to do. I am very happy to report that the Town of Douglas Track and Field Fund organization, which was established quite a few years ago, they are looking to kind of close up organization. They would like for the committee to accept a donation of $8,615.25. They have put a stipulation. They would like us to buy long-term durable equipment that be utilized for both programs, meaning middle school and high school, for the track and field, a long jump pit cover, repairs to the pit, and a high jump cover pad and cover.
Yep.
So I'd just be looking for a notion to accept the donation.
Motion to accept donation of $8,615.25.
Motion made by Becky, seconded by?
Meg.
Seconded by Meg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you so much.
Wonderful, thank you. I do have to say,
What a great organization.
AD Jack Coyne and Jared did a great job working with them as well to try to figure out what the best way was to help out the track and field team. So, it was great. I presented, last week, we proposed a 3.5% increase for non-union administration staff for their FY '27 salaries. Among that, with the exception of the superintendent who contractually is at 2.5%. I was asked to compare some substitute rates in the neighboring towns. As you'll see, we do have a sheet in there. Did ask, most of our Blackstone Valley friends did get in touch with us. As you'll see, if we maintain, as proposed, Douglas to maintain our substitutes at $110 a day, we have a long-term sub rate varying from $110, $130, $140 a day, depending on days substituting, and a nurse at $150 a day. As compared to our neighbors, we are absolutely right in line, a little higher than most, than some, a little higher than some on our daily rate. So I would like to propose, keep my same proposal as our last meeting, to not increase those prices and to keep the rates the same.
Any questions? Be looking for a motion.
I make a motion to keep the substitute rates the same? Is that what I'm proposing?
I think the motion would be to accept the proposed salaries.
Yes.
Increases.
So moved.
Increases.
Motion made by Julia, seconded by?
Meg.
Seconded by Meg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining?
Thank you. Next, on the agenda, I would be looking for a motion to accept our oil bid price. So, a little bit of explanation. In here, we had originally, I'm sorry. For FY '26, oil price was 2.69 cents a gallon. We went out to bid. We are staying part of the FREC oil bid, which is a conglomerate of about 20 different school districts in our area it was great because we got to go out. We go out and ask for a bid on about 1 million gallons of oil. The rate came back very unexpectedly. We spoke early in the year, when are we going out to bid? When are we going out to bid? Absolutely not knowing what was going to happen, so we went out to bid a little later than, rather than earlier. We were able to get a fairly good price back at 3.5252 cents per gallon. At the time that we were budgeting, we did become aware of what was going on. When we budgeted for a blended rate. It was still a little bit lower than the 3.52 gallons, only by about 14 cents. So when I look at the overall budget that had gotten approved on April 8th, and the bid didn't come in until May 14th, we're at a gap of about 15,000. The positive side of that, because you say, well, where is this 15,000 coming from? We had a balanced budget. A piece of revenue that came in a little higher than what we thought was our extraordinary relief for special education came in about $30,000 more than what we had budgeted. We were able to get the full 75%. We couldn't budget at that point because we weren't sure that it was coming in. So we do, very fortunately, have the $15,000 to cover the additional oil at the current rate that it's at. So I would be looking for a motion to accept the bid.
Looking for a motion?
What's a blended rate?
Meaning I took the 2.69 rate. At the time, we were thinking that it might come in at about $4 a gallon.
Average.
So average, blended.
Okay, thank you. That's perfect.
It's mom language. Yep.
Thank you, thank you. You know I need mom language. Thank you.
Motion to approve. Do you want to read the whole thing?
Yes, please.
Motion to accept the Dennis K. Burke, Inc. bid of $3.52 per gallon for the purchase of ultra-low sulfur heating oil for fiscal year 2027 pursuant to the French River Education Center Incorporated invitation for bids.
Motion made by Becky, seconded by?
Julia.
Seconded by Julia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thanks.
All right, last but not least, I am looking for an increase in lunch fees. We historically have not, the last time that we increased our lunch fees was in 2022. What this proposal is for adult meals and student second meals. A second meal or a second lunch or a second breakfast. First lunch remains free. What we have found out, actually, DESE gives us, and federal government gives us a formula that we are supposed to use, which is listed here, to come up with what our rate should be for adult meals. We went through, we did the calculation, and we came up with adult meal rate at $5.50. What we also found out, talking to other districts, is that going through audits, some districts are getting dinged if they're not using the rate and they're not properly charging at a minimum what the rate is supposed to be calculated out. Some of the thought process behind that is they don't want you digging too deep into your food service revolving fund because you're not charging an adequate number to cover your food costs. The same is incidentals, such as an ice cream, which we don't, our ice cream or our chips. They're saying that's great that you offer it, but you need to make sure that you're covering costs and, in fact, maybe making a little bit on it because you need to be sustainable in your revolving accounts. So I'm just looking for a motion to increase our adult meal to $5.50. And also our, sorry, it goes on the second page.
What's the current rate? Is that here?
What's the current rate for?
$4.75.
What about for the kids' meals for high school and middle?
That all changed by a quarter. So
Okay.
high school, it was $3.75. We're proposing it goes to $4 and through the line. And again, we're just trying to cover our costs, and with the increase in costs that we know is coming up because of the economy.
Any further questions? I'd be looking for a motion.
I will make that motion. I move to approve the following school lunch fees for the 2026-2027 school year for second lunch or breakfast as follows. Douglas High School, $4. Douglas Middle School, $4. Douglas Elementary School, $3.75. Douglas Primary School, $3.75. Student breakfast district-wide, $2.50. And the adult meal will be $5.15 plus applicable meals tax for a grand total of $5.50.
Motion made by Julia, second by? Becky. Second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Any topics not
Oh, wait, did we
anticipated?
do our transfers and reclassifications?
I do not have any this
Oh,
evening.
good,
Thank you.
okay.
The only thing is, we are scheduled for a school committee meeting on the 17th. We went long today, so I don't think we have anything on our side to present on the 17th unless the committee still feels it important to have that meeting on the 17th. I would recommend that we cancel it, and we will meet again officially on sometime in July to do what Diana does, but on the 5th at 3:30 for our next formal meeting. But I do not see anything needed to be on the agenda for the 17th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to approve?
That was it. Okay.
Anything else not anticipated? I've been looking for a motion.
So moved. To
Motion.
close.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Julia, second by?
Becky.
Second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those, anyone opposed? All right, thank you so much.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good
Thank you.
night.
Happy summer.